Day afternoon. How are you? And welcome to the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook, as always, presented by PlayAlberta.ca, where, hey, we have our playoff special for you. Use the promo code Gregor50, and you will get a free $50 wager. PlayAlberta.ca. Don't have to be. This is for anybody. You're a new-time user, regular user. It's all good. Now you do have to make a $5 deposit, so $5 to give you 50. That's a pretty good deal, but only for the playoffs at playalberta.ca. So it's Gregor 50. Good luck. Use it wisely. Oilers, Kings tonight. Finally, they will be the last of the first round series to get going, as Vegas and Dallas will start about a half an hour before the Oilers game tonight. You will have Toronto and Boston game 2, Islanders and Carolina also game 2 tonight. But the Oilers and the Kings, Edmonton won in 7 games in 2022. They lost in 1 in 6 games in 23. Both times the LA Kings won game 1 by a score of 4-3 in Edmonton. The Edmonton Oilers have actually lost 7 consecutive game 1s. The last time they won was in Anaheim in 2017. They ended up losing that series in 7 games, if you recall. So they're 1-8 all time in the McDavid and Draisaitl era in game 1. Now they are 4-4 in the 8 games where they lose game 1. So they, you know what, they're 500. They've been able to come back, but it's obviously not great. You would much want to win. And the Oilers, hey, since Chris Knobloch took over, they have been the best home team in the National Hockey League. 27 wins, 5 losses, 3 overtime losses. Best record in the league. The LA Kings come to town. Now, remember way back at the start of the season, as Oiler fans know, when the Oilers were terrible, the Kings were unbeatable on the road. They won their first 11 road games of the season, which is an NHL record, by the way, for a longest road winning streak to start a season. The record all time at any point of the year is 12 games straight. So they obviously were pretty good regardless of when it was. But since then, so they go 11-0, and in their last 30 road games, they have only won 11 of them. So they start 11-0. Since then, they're 11, 15, and 4. Meanwhile, the Oilers, 27, 5, and 3. Now, that's regular season, and I know the playoffs are a completely different beast. I think we all seen that. And the excitement level gets ratcheted up tonight. The physicality gets ratcheted up. We will see. We have 2 head coaches who have lots of coaching experience in other leagues, but have never coached an NHL playoff game. Both admitted, they'll be excited. There'll be lots of energy and lots of emotion before the game, probably leading right up to it. Kind of like a player, sometimes you get your first shift and then maybe you exhale a bit. Dylan Holloway was laughing today. He talked about in 2022, remember when he got called up and the Oilers were in the 3rd round against Colorado? In game 4, Dylan Holloway, now he was told the night before the game that he was going to play. And he said he was so jacked up. He's calling everybody, his friends, family the night before. His parents and sibling brother came in town, had a few buddies who were able to make the game. Great. His first shift was an offensive zone faceoff. He says he lines up in the faceoff. He's just amped right up. Puck's dropped, and he goes to step, just falls down. He was so nervous. He fell down. He said it was, he'll be nervous tonight, but not nearly as much. So I remember that game the Oilers lost. He played about 3.5 minutes. I think it was 3:27 to be exact. And you know what? It's just a different time. Your nerves, everything. Corey Perry, this will be his 197th NHL game. He's going to be top 20 all time. He passes Steve Yzerman. They were both tied at 196. Once he gets to game 200, he'll tie Jari Kurri and Zdeno Chara. Top 20 all time in games played. So if this series is 5-gamer, then Corey Perry will be ahead of both of them as well. And Oiler fans are obviously, and Perry, he's playing maybe close to 210 plus, maybe close to 220. because that means then the Oilers are going on a real long run. So we got all that to discuss today on the show. As always, you can text us 833-401-1440 in our email inbox. There is lots and lots to discuss. What a crazy weekend it was in the National Hockey League. 6 games. Now, there was a few somewhat passive games, but man, there were some great games. Probably none better than the Colorado-Winnipeg game. Did you watch the first period of that game? Oh, my goodness. It was end to end. They're so fast. 6 goals, and no one's got a power play. There wasn't even a power play call in the first period. It was outstanding. And the Jets end up winning that game 7-6. Connor Halley gets lit up for 6 goals, and the Avs lose. I don't think that's a great scenario for them. But it was, now Colorado controlled lots of that game, right? They outshot them 40. I think it was 2-1, 46-23. Gordiev, you got to make some saves. But also the Avs defensive zone coverage, as we talked about before the series, that is the one thing about Colorado. Yeah, goaltending is a concern, but their team defense is not where it's been in the past. And we saw that in game 1. So we'll see how they rebound tomorrow. That's what's so awesome about the playoffs, man. Is you have a game, good, bad, whatever. You got to erase it, and then game 2 comes. You had Florida and Tampa. Much more of a defensive, kind of uneventful game for long stretches. But Florida picks up the win. 3-1 3-2. They had an empty netter. And then Stamkos scored, 15 seconds left to make it 3-2. Good series. Toronto, we'll see. They're big guns. They're basically on the side of milk cartons for the last few days in Toronto, specifically Mitch Marner. Like, you could ask after the game, you could say, who played, Marner or Nylander? If you watch the game, you'd be like, well, geez, did I see Nylander? No. Did I see Marner? Not really. So he'll need to be much better in that game. Big hello to everybody watching on Oilers Nation YouTube, as well as Facebook. Christine typing in, just hopes that everybody's healthy. They're ready to go. The Oilers lineup tonight, according to Chris Knobloch, is going to be the same as what you saw at practice yesterday. Adam Henrique with McDavid and Hyman. You will have Draisaitl with Fogle and Nugent-Hopkins, Ryan McLeod, Holloway, and Corey Perry, and Sam Carrick with Matthias Janmark on the right wing and Evander Kane on the left side. So Connor Brown, extra guy tonight, same as Derek Ryan. On defense, Troy Stetcher is out. Calvin Pickard, of course, the backup. And the Oilers' 3 defense pairs will be the same as what we've seen for the majority of the season. Ekholm, Bouchard, Narcisse, Kulak, and Desharnais. Meanwhile, the LA Kings, they've juggled their lines a little bit. You'll have Lafayette is playing with Kopitar and Kempe. I'm very curious to see how long that lasts. Then Deneau is with Moore and Victor Arvidsson. You will have Blake Lizotte with Kevin Fiala and Trevor Lewis. Then you've got Grundstrom. He has been approved. He's in the game tonight with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Quentin Byfield. Now, Quentin Byfield, talking to some Winnipeg reporters, down the stretch hadn't played very well. And it's much as I think there was a little message from the coach, he's trying to get his attention. And that's why they think he'll probably be back up there. But he had went 20 games without a goal. And then had a goal and an assist in the final game of the season against Chicago. And both of those allowed him to reach some career milestones as far as bonuses go. So that was worth about $250K for him, 425, I should say, because he hit both of them. They're about $212,500 to get the 20 goal plateau. So good for Quentin Byfield being stuck on 19 for 20 games. Brutal. So I will be curious to see how long that lasts. We do know they'd love to try to get the Deneau matchup against Connor McDavid's line. And there's no reason for the Oilers to fear that matchup. Deneau is a pretty good defensive center, don't get me wrong, but the Oilers' top line's going. It's only a matter of how long before they produce. I think Adam Henrique, I like Adam Henrique in the minutes he's played with McDavid. Hyman obviously goes to the net a lot, but Adam Henrique is not afraid to be around there. So look for him. Of course, he's pretty fired up. We had an interview one-on-one with him. We'll play that a little bit later on in the program today. Just talk about, here's a guy who went to the Stanley Cup final back with the New Jersey Devils 12 years ago. 12 years. You're a young player in the league. You're thinking, hey, man, this is great. Yeah, it sucks we lost, but we'll get back here again, won't we? And the answer is no. That was his first season in the NHL, 2011-12. He's been back to the playoffs once since then. So to say that he is excited for tonight is somewhat of a understatement. You don't play that long. You look at how many games he played in between, like since he played the 24 playoff games in that 2011-2012 season, he has played 843 games in the regular season, but only 4 in the playoffs. Trust me, he wants back in. This guy scored 20 goals 8 times since getting to the Cup final, but only been in the playoffs once. And they played 4 games in 2018. The Ducks didn't have any success. So, he'll be fired up today, as will most of the other Oilers. Right, Ryan McLeod. I think people forget Ryan McLeod had a pretty good playoffs last year for Edmonton. So he's hoping to build on that. Dylan Holloway hoping to continue his little hot streak that he finished the regular season on. And away we go. It should be fun. On the show today, man, we are loaded. Craig McTavish will join us. We'll talk about coaching and, how game plans change. We all know how the Oilers changed and what they wanted to do against Detroit. Now, Detroit was much more skilled team than the 2006 Oilers. But they built a game plan, and then the players executed it quite well. That got them to beat Detroit. Now, you know what? Obviously, Rolson played well. Manny Legacy, not so great. So we'll get to that. Grant Fedoruk will join us. We will talk about sports hernia from a dealing with pain factor to what are the different levels of severity, and then the rehab if indeed you ended up having surgery on it. Right? Because there's lots of athletes who play with a sports hernia for an extended period of time. Mainly because the rehab can vary from athlete to athlete. You're not really sure how long it's going to take. So we'll talk to Grant about that. Dennis Bernstein from the fourth period. Kings Reporter will join us in the 3:20 hour. We'll have Andy Petrillo. Spec will be by, as well as Kevin Woodley, Wanye Gretz. As always, we'll hear from Connor McDavid a little bit later on in the show. Chris Knobloch also get some thoughts from Jim Hiller, the head coach of the Los Angeles Kings. They're ready to go. The Edmonton Oilers now, twice in franchise history, have they played the same team 3 years in a row and won all 3 times. They did it against the Jets in 83 to 85, and they did it against the Kings in 1990, 1991, and 1992. Now, they also played the Dallas Stars, as many of you remember, 5 years in a row. They won in 97 and then lost in 98, 99, 2000, 2001, and then, for good measure, lost again in 2003. But the Edmonton Oilers, here's a fun little stat for you. The Edmonton Oilers have not won Game 1 of a playoff series on home ice since 1991 in the second round. Now, some of those years they didn't play Game 1 at home. Obviously, 97, 98, those years when they did upset Dallas and Colorado. Right? They lost Game 1 in Dallas in 97, but they did win Game 1 in Colorado in 98 and went on to win that series in 7 games. They won Game 1, then they lost 3 in a row, then they won 3 in a row. If you recall that, games 5, 6, and 7, Curtis Joseph had shutouts in games 6 and game 7. So we'll talk lots about the playoffs. Get fired up, man. I can't wait. Con man, what's your expectations tonight? And also, we got a fun little announcement here coming up in a sec after the Con man.
Well, expectation for tonight, Gregor. I mean, one, if you're going to the game, bring the noise. I want to see you match in the level of Winnipeg because they put on a performance last night. That crowd there was terrific. I think we're going to see, obviously, the energy of those guys who maybe don't always throw that hit, looking to do so, kind of ramp it up this time of year. But I want to see the Oilers doing what they did best when they were playing their best hockey, and that was playing good, responsible defensive hockey. That's what got them their wins. That win streak that they had in the middle of the season, that's what they were doing, holding teams to 2 goals or less. On the odd occasion, 3 goals. So that's what I want to see. You know, when you're ramped up emotionally and you're doing all those different things, do you still have the, wherewithal to remember? You got to play solid defensively. This Kings team does have some players who can put the puck in the back of the net. Got to keep that defensive game going, but I cannot wait. 8:20 is not going to come soon enough for me, Gregor.
8:20. Yeah, that's the puck drop time. Hey, guess what? I have a great pair of seats for you. We are going to auction off for Gregor's grads. We've had a few last second requests, and I don't like to say no to that. So I'll donate my tickets to the game tonight, where the Orders attacked twice. So obviously sold out game, and Orders attacked twice. They're great seats. I've sat in them quite often, so I can tell you firsthand experience. They're very good in section 115. So if you want to go to the game tonight, how about Gregor's grads? You can text in your bid at 833-401-1440. 833-401-1440. A pair of seats for tonight's playoff game. Also, coming up a little bit later on, we will have Here Comes the Sun. Today, qualifiers, we're looking for somebody who's like, you know what? I want to win this prize I want to gift it to someone. So be ready. We're going to take someone today to qualify who wants to gift it to someone who could use it, really wants to save on their power bills moving forward. So, or just somebody who really cares about the environment, one or two. So think about that. That'll come up in the 4 o'clock hour as well. Take a quick break. We'll return. Craig McTavish joins us next on The Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. Do you want to put it? We roll through game day on Sports 1440. Jason Gregor. Connor Halley with you. Of course, the Edmonton Oilers, Los Angeles Kings for the third consecutive season are set to do battle in the first round of the playoffs. So Oilers win in 7, 2022, win in 6 in 2023. And the Kings won game 1 both times in Edmonton. So both teams would like a different result. Kings probably would rather lose game 1 if it means they win the series. Oilers obviously want to win game 1 and then win the series. As it's time now for our big guest of the day, brought to you by Silent Rides Charter Company, one of Alberta's premier bus charter companies with state-of-the-art motor coaches that safely take your team or group to your next destination. Go to silentrides.ca for more information. He was a multiple Stanley Cup winner as a player, longtime NHL head coach, general manager. Now he's an analyst for the Edmonton Oilers. Craig McTavish joins us. Mac T, how you doing?
Good, Greg. You ready for action?
Oh, I am. So get fired up. You played a lot. Obviously, you coached a lot in the playoffs. So do you still get that extra boost of energy to all the memories for you as a player and coach come flooding back, knowing how much more fun the playoffs are?
Well, I sure look forward to it, to watch it. That's for sure. Just because of the intensity that's in particular the first round brings. I mean, everybody's fresh, and you just, as a player, you get a different wave of energy coming out that gate for game 1 of series 1. And you saw it the last couple of nights too, as well, with the intensity in some of the other series, all the other series actually. And it's a brand of hockey that I really appreciate. I mean, it's much more physical than the 82 game grind regular season. And I enjoy that part of it.
So you look at the matchup, Craig, and a lot of people talked about in 06, how, the Red Wings had 30 more points than your team, but you really changed how you were going to play in that series and how you'd play in the regular season, obviously, because it's the same team all the time. The system's one thing. Obviously, it's up to the players to execute it. If you're coaching the Oilers, are you making any significant changes considering how well they've played since Knobloch came in? Yeah.
I think you're making changes, in particular to play against that passive 1-3-1. And it takes a more strategic approach to get through that. Now, if I'm LA, I don't want to be in that posture all that much, because it means that you're not getting to the forecheck. When you're not getting to the forecheck and there's a gap between LA's first forechecker and our breakout, that's when they retreat into that 1-3-1. And, it makes it pretty easy to get the red line and get the puck in deep. But at the same time, they've got their last guy back there that retrieves the puck and has some time to make that next play. So you have to try and strategize what you're going to do when you try and get into those, put somebody in those pockets just behind their three, and try and beat their first guy, then a soft chip to a pocket by their second guy on the flank, and then you should have something. And excuse me, but Edmonton, with their speed against a fairly stationary checking posture, should be able to have some success. But you look at the numbers, and LA is very good at denying goals 5-on-5, and you have to give this system. I hate it. I thought and believe that you should get penalized for illegal defense if you have 5 guys retreating, and they'll have 5 guys retreating a lot, but they're number 5 in the NHL at goals against, at 5-on-5, and that's, you have to give the system some credit for that. But they don't score a lot of goals 5-on-5, and sometimes that can be because of a passive system. But Edmonton scores a lot 5-on-5. So that's going to be a real important part of this series for sure, along with penalty killing. I really believe penalty killing. LA's got the second best penalty killing in the league, and we all know how dangerous the Oiler power play is. If the Oilers can do a good job on their penalty kill, then I really think that we're gonna win the series.
Craig McTavish joins us. Craig, you got McDavid on one line, you got Draisaitl on the other line, you got McLeod and Holloway. Obviously, that there's lots of speed there on that team. You mentioned like that soft chip, find that little pocket, and so it's not how much of it is the timing of the soft chip, but also that your line mates, that okay, I can chip it now because so and so is going. Right? Like, how important is that, and how important is the transition game coming to play for Edmonton from their defense to get up to the forwards to maybe limit LA getting in that comfort zone?
Well, the transition game will, as you said. I mean, you're bang on. A quick transition is going to limit their ability to get into that structure. But at the same time, you're right. The timing of it is more of a structure. When you're up against it, that's when you go into a more structured style of breakout. And to me, it's the defenseman coming up and beating the first guy with a pass, and then that defenseman skating up and then chipping it to a pocket where you've got some wingers with some speed that are getting in behind the three guys, and then you should have something on the rush. And if it all breaks down, then you've got to get it in deep and get after them before their guy that's in the back gets the puck and moves it up. I mean, they do have some mobility back there on the back end.
Craig, looking since Chris Knobloch and Paul Coffey came in, we've seen a big change. Specifically, like Paul Coffey, all his defensemen talk about, he's really hammered. Hey, I want you guys to make plays. This is not just it's 2024. Chip and get it off the glass and out isn't a play that we want anymore in the NHL. Obviously, Paul was one of the greatest offensive defensemen, and I think probably underrated in how he was defensive at key times in games. For sure. Wasn't his forte, but he wasn't as awful as some people suggest. As a coach, when you watch, like, what were the things, because I see how he's talked about, okay, moving up. Like, I talked to Darnell Nurse today, and he said the one thing that Paul really worked on him was, he goes, even when you make a play, I just want you to get up in the play. Doesn't mean you're always joining it, but if you get up there, now your gap is less when they're coming back the other way. Like, what have you picked up on, maybe other than that you've seen a difference in Coffey and what he's instilled inside the defense core?
Well, I see so much more activation of their defense off the offensive blue line. And at times you'll see both defensemen activating. And, I've seen it a lot where you have Ekholm coming down the flank with the puck and Bush trying to go to the backside. So, I mean, it's a great tactic, but you have to have the forwards being aware in a position that they can cover for the defense. And as Charlie Huddy often spoke about that, never trust a expletive forward. And but you have to be creative and you have to activate. And there's a lot of lateral activation with the defense too that poses a ton of problems for defensive zone coverage when they cross at the top. I mean, that really requires a lot of sense to handle some of those crosses. But there's a lot of activation and jumping up on the rush and joining on the rush, and that stuff is fantastic. But you have to have the buy-in from the forwards, and I mean, that should be easy enough to get from the forwards because of how much extra offense it creates. So, I mean, Paul's had I think a great impact on what he's done with the defense and just the approach that he has with the defense. I mean, I saw him at the Spengler Cup a number of years ago working with some defense, and I was really impressed on how quickly he aligned himself and gained credibility and trust from the defense group. So I think he's done that here. And, they've been really good defensively or offensively.
Yeah.
Much better offensively.
You bring in young players, and you know what? There's lots of extra energy. Now, Dylan Holloway's a young player, not overly young, I guess, by today's standards, Craig. But since he's come up here, he's definitely made his presence felt. But the playoffs are very different, right? And experience does matter. But you also, how do you balance that, having experience, but then also there's something to be said about just that youthful energy that sometimes can really help a group?
Well, going into this, I would assume that, Dylan Holloway's baseline game is going to be, he's going to execute the game plan. He's going to get in on the forecheck. He's going to be physical, and he's going to make plays and try not to turn the puck over. And that's the baseline game. And if he can do that night in and night out, he's going to make a significant contribution to the team. The goals, I mean, that's a byproduct of a good baseline game, getting to the net, which he's done lately, deflecting pucks, getting sticks on pucks, and he's got a lot of speed. So, I mean, I think we all assumed that once the regular season was over or nearing conclusion that he'd be in the mix.
Craig McTavish joins us here on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation YouTube and Facebook. Oilers taking on the LA Kings. Craig, you know what? When you see the same team year after year, do you feel there's a benefit to the Oilers because they were victorious in both of those? Now, I know you have new coaches, but like the core group of players, they're like, we know what LA's system is. It's kind of always been the same, and we beat it 2 years in a row. And now we're probably a better defensive 5-on-5 team than we were in those previous two series. Like, how much does that confidence help, if any, do you think, heading into this series?
Well, that's a good question. I assume there's not much of a trade-off from year to year. I mean, they've had success against this team, but the Oilers really have been the better team. And the nice thing going into this series is, in my mind, knowing that our best is going to beat their best. And so we're in control of the result. Could we self-destruct at times and lose a series? Absolutely. I mean, anybody that gets in the playoffs now is a threat. It's not an easy task to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs in today's NHL. And anybody that does that has a significant bite to their game. But, if we're patient enough and we're maturing as a team and our stars are maturing, and we've got a little bit more depth now than what we've had in the past. I think Corey Perry has been well discussed how important he's going to be. He's a guy that's got the pedigree. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's been the MVP of the league. He's going to have a lot of credibility and a significant impact on everybody, not just the role players, but also the stars. That he's been there before. He's known as a winner, and he's going to have a significant impact at some pretty crucial times, in my estimation. And I think he's still got enough game left that he can help us on the ice. So, I mean, I think he was a good addition. Evander Kane, I expect, notwithstanding the injury that he's got, he's a guy that's, I mean, his game is tailor-made for the playoffs. I think he's going to come out and, depends on how hobbled he is with this injury. But I wouldn't think it's too restrictive. And I think Evander's going to come out and he's going to be banging and getting in the opposition's face, and that stuff's still important.
Oh yeah,
and he's got to walk the line without taking a bunch of penalties too, as well. And I'm sure everybody's talked to him. The players have talked to him. The coaches have talked to him. And he's a bright enough guy and has enough experience that he knows that he can't take a bunch of penalties, but we need what he brings.
Craig, one of the big things about being a coach is, just communication. You're dealing with upwards of, sometimes 25 personalities, depending on how many guys you have injured, and everybody's going to react, and everybody kind of beats a little bit different, which is fine. So like earlier, it was last month, and Chris Knobloch in the Ottawa game said, Evander's out for a maintenance day. And then Kane comes out the next day and says, no, I was fine. I was healthy scratch, basically. And now he comes out, and I can't recall seeing a player talk about, I've been dealing with this injury before the playoffs even begin. It's just kind of odd. How do you approach as a coach? Is it concern at all when you consider those situations here in the last month?
I mean, there's a lot of white noise around Evander. A couple 3 weeks ago for there's normally where there's smoke there's fire, but I mean, you can't get too wrapped up in this stuff. They're all men. I mean, you have disagreements, you have emotional discussions on the bench. Like, it's an emotional game. To me, that was rarely ever a negative. And I mean, it's bandied about in the media because it's a good talking point. But really, I mean, they're all men. I mean, you have to be able to give and take criticism, especially constructive criticism. So I never really worried much about the white noise. But at the same time, as I said, where there's smoke, there's fire. Evander is it's been a great story for him coming in here. He's done a lot of great things. And, it looked like it was starting to go a little sideways, but he got it back on track and has had a real good year. And I'm anticipating a real good contribution in the playoffs. I mean, he had 22, 23 goals and provides a lot of toughness. Well, he's one of the guys that's not, as Kelly Buchberger used to say, not looking to pick up nickels on the ice. He's looking players right in the eye and challenging them. And to me, that's important. And I think he's in a real good position going in there. As for the injury, I think, you don't want to reveal injuries that can be targeted.
Yeah.
And this, to me, is not an injury that it's a soft tissue injury, and you can't target it. So I don't think there's any harm in revealing exactly what it was. It wouldn't be a big deal to me as a coach. I mean, if he had an ankle problem or something like that, where players could come in and start whacking at his ankle, then obviously you wouldn't want to reveal that. But this is something that the information is not in any way going to help the opposition.
Craig, enjoy the playoffs, man. We'll see you at the rink.
Sounds good, Jason. Thanks. Look forward to it.
You betcha. There's Craig McTavish. Always enjoy having MacT on the show. He does a great job of breaking down things from a coaching perspective. Very bright guy. 2:40 will come back. Cam Tate will join us. Also, Grant Fedoruk and more on the Jason Gregor Show. It is playoffs here on Sports 1440 and Orders Nation YouTube and Facebook. waving your all over. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley on Sports 1440. Let's get to 2-minute warning with Cam Tate, brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling. Home to no payments, no interest for 1 year on your AC unit. Don't wait till you're too hot and you're sweating, you can't sleep. Do it now. Plan ahead. No payments, no interest. LegacyHeating.ca.
Of the dressing room. Thank you there, Jason. Monday, April 22nd. And Cam asks, can you feel it? We've been waiting for this for almost a year. It's the anticipation, excitement, get the blue hair out, orange beards. But this is not and will never be a commentary on spring fashion because there is, frankly, too much stuff for us to cram into 12 seconds about the first home game fought the Edmonton Oilers of this year's version of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And the storylines are a gift from heaven. Any fiction writer would go nuts over. So I'm going to be, as my first sports editor and gentleman that hired me in 1979, George Ward would say, tight and bright. I can't understand why some folks are worried about the fact the Oilers are known for not winning the first game. Next, really? I mean, really ever hear of a team being sent golfing after game one? Now, okay, I'll say it is a good way to set the tone, get an advantage, home ice advantage maybe, but a hill to die on. Absolutely not. Let's go to last week's Oiler game. Arizona, the Oilers had almost everyone, including the bus driver in the press box. 97 was up there, 29-14. Yep. 93, 18-2. I have a sneaking suspicion that leadership silently embraced the fact that they need to do just that, lead. Because when those big rigs are rolling and, rolling, the Edmonton Oilers are a hell of a hockey club. Now, I would not be doing my job, and that Gregor guy might accidentally, but on purpose, shove me down the stairs if I said everything was fine. Hunky-dory, another day over there in paradise with the Oilers from it. I'll be keeping a close eye on how the Oilers come out of their end, how many first passes get the puck out of their end, and how fast. And turnovers, goaltending, fine. I like the Skinner-Picard combo. And coaching, cool Chris Knobloch. He's got it going on. Cam's call, Oilers over the Kings in 5. Just for giggles, let me know if you see any golf clubs outside of the dressing rooms after the game. It's a 2-minute warning. Monday, Friday, Jason Gregor Show, Sports 1440.
To lose game one. The Oilers have lost game one in their last 7 series. In the McDavid era, they're actually 1-8 in game one. So we'll see if they can try to change that. They haven't won game one on home ice since 1991. So hey, things are bound to change, though. You could say they're due. We'll see. But the Oilers, hey, this is the best 5-on-5 team they've had in decades. They should win. We'll see if they do it. Now, let's get to the injury report brought to you by Leading Edge Physio. Now, guess what? We talk about all the great treatments that you can get. Aquatic therapy, radial shockwaves, zero-gravity treadmills, pneumatic recovery devices. Well, the pros have it. Well, so can you at Leading Edge. Weekend warriors, you're just as important as the pros at leadingedgephysio.com. As Grant Fedoruk joins us once again. And Grant, sports hernia. It's a topic of the day. Evander Kane brought up, says he's been dealing with one. So, and I saw some, I've seen some people. Can you explain the difference between a sports hernia and like a sprained groin or a groin injury? Are they similar or very different?
Okay, so we need to talk about more than just that. The term hernia kind of needs to be put aside because sports hernia the term we should be using is athletic pubalgia. It's basically a pain coming from the pubic region. That's a more general term that's better accepted in this kind of description, because if we want to differentiate between a few things, we need to talk about the difference between an inguinal hernia, where part of the abdominal wall is weakened, and essentially what's happening is your intestines kind of squeezing through a weak point in the inguinal region, and it can lead to strangulation or compression on your intestinal world. versus a sports hernia, which also can now be confused with a groin strain because it's way more complex than that. And it's actually the structures involved with a sports hernia, athletic pubalgia, include primarily the distal rectus abdominis, so the six-pack muscle, and particularly where it attaches to your pubic bone. But there's other structures in that area, including what's called the conjoint tendon, which is kind of the oblique and transverse abdominis come together in that area. There's the external obliques, there's the inguinal ligament. So there's a complex, when they do surgeries on these, often even the MRI and everything doesn't do a good job of saying exactly which structure is damaged, how much it's damaged. And it's when they're doing surgery, they see that there's often a lot more. And yes, sometimes the groin plays a role. Sometimes, particularly one muscle, adductor longus, which attaches right in that region, is also damaged. But it's more complex than just calling it a groin strain. And often a groin strain is not the problem. It's these other structures I just described.
So you now lots of players can play through sports hernia for quite a while, and they, in their off season, whether it's 5 months, 6 months. So the question is why? What's the benefit of playing through it rather than having the surgery and then coming back a few months later? Or is the rehab and the surgery just normally too long that, unless you have in October, November, you probably won't be able to play?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. The risk of this injury isn't so severe. If you have an actual hernia, particularly as it gets larger, there's a risk of doing considerable damage if we're talking about an actual hernia versus this injury, which a player can play through, not necessarily with the same risk involved. And in fact, surgery is usually indicated when rest, anti-inflammatory, physical therapy, and those things have failed. And it's usually defined by a period of time. After X number of months, the person's still suffering. Those are kind of some of the indicators as to whether surgery is actually required. And so part of this, if you take where I'm going, is trying to manage it conservatively first before. So not just jumping to surgery saying, oh, that's what it is, we need to have surgery. You need to do everything else first. And then it's when it's not better, that's when you consider surgery. Timing of which, we've had this discussion many times, Jason. Number one, it's up to the player. Right? That discussion has to happen. Do they want to do it? What are the risks of surgery? What are the outcomes? What if I just keep playing? And so most of the time, and I'm not going to speak for the professional athlete, but if you look at this injury, most of the time, these are surgeries that happen in the off season. I mean, it's a very common one in soccer, football, any sport where there's a forced rotation of the trunk, particularly, like think about soccer, football quarterbacks. Donovan McNabb was the big one not too long ago where there was tons of talk about him. Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, I can name a bunch of guys who've gone through this and ended up in some cases having surgery, and not all of them do. There's a lot of them that just go on to recover uneventfully from the injury with the other stuff I talked about.
Grant Fedora joined, and there's a lot of them that have like this surgery. There's still like in any surgery, there's always a risk, right? Which is, I think that's why players and even team doctors, they all, like I look at Connor McDavid. He didn't have surgery on his knee, right? He opted to rehab it without it because there's always a risk, even as advanced as we are in the medical profession today. Anytime you go under the knife, there's a risk that it doesn't work the way you want it to.
That's exactly right. The outcomes of this surgery are, I did some homework. The outcomes of this surgery are high. I mean, good outcomes up in the 90% realm. So as far as deciding as to whether to do it or not, I think it's on a case by case basis as far as that goes. You're right, though. There is risks. If you look, there's some studies that came out where they studied the results and the tenure, the long-term result of an impact on the career of some NFL players that had the surgery. Their post-operative performance was great. They came out, they were able to perform at a high level. They were able to return to sport relatively quickly, but I'm going to say relative because it's broad. It can be 6 weeks or it can be 12 weeks. It's not a simple, here's the surgery and 6 weeks later, you're back to sport. It could be, but it also could be longer. And that being said, though, in some cases in the NFL athletes, their longevity of their careers was shortened. So all of those factors
It-
have to be considered.
Any reason, like what would cause it to shorten it?
Well, I think that in any case, any time, it's a good question, and I can't speak for for that study specifically.
Okay.
But anytime you have a tissue it's no longer the tissue you had.
Right.
So if we talk about injuries to other areas, whenever surgery is involved, you are never dealing with the same structure that you had prior to surgery. Ever. It's always the original tissue is always going to be better than what happens post surgically. We've talked about that with with the elbow surgeries too. There's a risk. They definitely give these guys a career, and it takes the pain away, and they're able to perform at a high level. But I would love to see the follow up on those elbows at 20 years post career, or even longer. So I certainly think that there's a risk there. Recovery timeframes in today's modern medicine and the unbelievable surgeons that we've got out there doing this work, outcomes are getting better and better though today.
So Grant Fedor joins us from Leading Edge Physio. Now, Grant, you treated a lot of professional athletes, a lot of weekend warrior guys. So when you look at a player says, I've been dealing with the sports hernia for a week. Now, a month earlier, he also said he was healthy enough to play, and he wasn't a maintenance day. He was a healthy scratch. So then I'm like, well, how hurt are you? But he had only missed 2 of the first 79 games. So, and I know that you always have to treat an athlete to know 100% what they're going through. But if somebody has a sports hernia and they've only missed like 1 game in 4 months, like what's the pain threshold there? How much is it really limiting? And can you give us like how broad of a range do we have of like, can you have like a minor sports injury and then a major sports hernia? Like that, can they be significantly different?
Yeah, absolutely. These are soft tissue injuries. So the degree to which that tearing is occurring will directly impact their function and pain levels. So everybody responds to both of those in different ways. Certain athletes have been known to play through injuries that you and I wouldn't even be able to walk down the street with. And it just depends on their ability to manage the pain. In fact, with this problem, often surgery will be done. When they do the surgery, they'll often cut a nerve in that area to reduce the pain, the inguinal nerve, because then they get some outcome where the pain is less as a result, because that can often become damaged and inflamed as a result of this long-standing injury. Again, I can't answer all of these questions in this one because it's so complex. The number of structures that can be involved are significant. The degree to which each one involved is going to be different. And it's based on all of that as to whether a player can perform at a high level or is really now it's influencing or impacting their ability to actually perform at that level. And it's not just pain, it actually would be function. So think about the abdominal muscle. This is actually often confused when we see them because coughing, sneezing is typical positive sign of somebody who has an inguinal hernia, but it's also positive. The Valsalva when you hold your breath, cough, sneeze, bear down to poop, for instance, that increases the intra-abdominal pressure. And if you've got abdominal tearing of that rectus abdominis, it'll mimic an inguinal hernia. The difference is there will be no bulging of that intestine through the abdominal wall. So again, you think about a hockey player who's bearing down during a game, taking a hit, throwing a hit, preparing for a hit, even firing off a shot, holding their breath at any point, or working their body, to a level where they're barely able to catch their breath. All of those things are going to put stress on that distal rectus abdominis. And I can't speak for the level of pain he's going through. That's maybe he's just super, super tougher than me. I would probably assume that.
Right. And obviously the amount of discomfort and pain would depend on, how severe the tear is. Now, if you have a slight tear in a sports hernia and you keep playing, does it automatically mean it's going to tear worse and worse every time? Is that usually what happens?
Not automatically.
Okay.
And again, these are injuries that often people are playing through. In fact, they're usually late to be diagnosed. They're going through all kinds of the weekend warrior or the average athlete that's dealing with these things is often, it resolves with rest. So it gets better and it feels better. And it's when they return to activity that it's just not going away.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, the risk of these going on for a long period of time actually would be that, in fact, that weakness down in that area could lead to other problems like an inguinal hernia as well. So this would be followed by his team of medical physicians and trainers and stuff. They'd be paying attention to it and seeing what the progress is, and it's a case by case basis. If it's not getting worse, if he's able to do the activities, if he's performing at a high level, that's probably what they're doing, is monitoring it on a day-to-day basis and month to month.
Great stuff, Grant. Really appreciate the rundown, man. Thanks for this. Enjoy the playoffs.
Yeah, let's just hope they're all performing at a high level. That's all I care about.
Yeah, right. There you go. That is Grant Fedoruk from Leading Edge Physio. And hey, if you ever have any pain and you want to feel better, discomfort, contact Leading Edge. The Edmonton, Spruce Grove, St. Albert, Sherwood Park, Leduc, they're all around, and their staff knows their stuff. They'll get you back out there, golfers. Got a little shoulder, hip problems already? Get it fixed. Coming up after 3 o'clock, we have more. We'll hear from Adam Henrique. Of course, he's back in the playoffs for the first time in a long time. Dennis Bernstein will be by. Spec Woodley on the goaltending. Jeez, Hellebuck gives up 6. Jeez, if you're Colorado, how concerned are you about your goaltending? If we're going to get into that and much more. But first, here's the Con Man and a Sports 1440 update brought to you by our good friends at Fountain Tire, where you can make the shift to more savings. Save up to 25% off on select tires and a bonus of $50 off service or anything more right now at Fountain Tire.
The Sports 1440 update.
Finally here, game 1 for the Edmonton Oilers as they host the LA Kings down at the Ice District. Puck drop in this one set for 8:20. Elsewhere around the NHL, Maple Leafs in Boston taking on the Bruins. Game 2 of that series, Boston leading 1-0. The Carolina Hurricanes look to take a 2-0 series lead as they host the Islanders. Puck drop 5:30. At 7:30, got the Golden Knights in Dallas taking on the Stars. Golden Knights captain Mark Stone will be in the lineup in this one. In the association tonight, playoff action also 5 o'clock. Cavaliers take on the Magic, leading 1-0. The Knicks hosting the 76ers, looking to take a 2-0 series lead. Then later tonight, the Lakers try to get back into their series against the Nuggets, trailing 1-0. Tip off in that one just after 8 o'clock. Major League Baseball, the Blue Jays are in Kansas City, taking on the Royals. First pitch, 5:40. You've also got the White Sox in Minnesota. Braves host the Marlins. Phillies take on the Reds. Pirates up against the Brewers. The Padres are in Colorado. Giants host the Mets. And earlier today, the Athletics get past the Yankees 2-0. In some news from the NFL, the Denver Broncos are acquiring former number 2 overall pick Zach Wilson from the New York Jets. They're expecting to trade a 2024 6th-round pick to the Jets for the quarterback and a 2024 7th-rounder. Coming up in hour 2 of the Jason Gregor Show, we'll hear from members of the Edmonton Oilers as well as LA Kings beat reporter Dennis Bernstein. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440, a Stingray radio station.
Through a lovely Monday afternoon. It's game day. You pumped, you excited. It's playoffs, baby. Oilers taking on the Los Angeles Kings tonight. It is the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca. And hey, we're in the playoff mood at Play Alberta. We'll give you a free $50 bet when you use the promo code Gregor50. Now you need a $5 deposit and you get the $50. So $5, 50 is pretty good exchange. And this is for long-time users, first-time users. It doesn't matter. Just use the promo code Gregor50, but it runs out when the playoffs are over. So get in, use it wisely, and hopefully you can roll it over a few times. So playalberta.ca. Also, the big dog has the bid at 500 bones right now. Pretty good bargain for the Oilers. We have a pair of seats. Gregor's Grads, we had a few last-minute kids asking for suits, and I don't really like saying no, so we're trying to raise a little bit more money. So we're at 500 bones lower bowl seats where the Oilers attack twice. They're actually my seats. So my son's a little perturbed, but he's going Wednesday. Hey, can't get to every game. He's only 10. So he will go on Wednesday instead, and we will auction those off, and all the proceeds will go to Gregor's Grads to get some suits for the kids. So if you want to go tonight, lower bowl, Section 115, where the Oilers attack twice. Having sat there, I can tell you they're very good seats. And pretty good peeps around you if you're a diehard Oilers fan. They get pretty heavily involved in the game. So a few fun shirts, especially the guy. I don't even know the guys behind me because I don't sit there very often, but there's one guy behind me. God, he makes me laugh. It's refreshing. You know, you sit in the press box. There's not much going on up there. It's kind of boring, if I'm being honest, right? Like it's loud. Don't get me wrong. It's a fun job, but it's much different than being in the crowd. So I like sitting in the crowd 5-6 times a year. It's a reminder of how fast the game is when you're that close, but also just some of the commentary that goes on. And what I like about it is there's not a lot of profanity from said gentleman, which is appreciated when you have a 10-year-old at the games with you. So if you want to go tonight, bargain of a deal right now at 500 bones for the 2 seats tonight, game 1, Oilers and the Kings. 833-401-1440 is where you can text in if you want to get it. So away you go. Now, let's go to the oil report brought to you by VolvoCarsEdmonton.com. It is springtime, baby, and 0.99% financing on any lease at Volvo. And also, if you're looking to purchase, you can get an extra $4,000 off select models at VolvoCarsEdmonton.com. Drive in now. It's Canada's #1 Volvo dealership. It's great. Adam Henrique. As a rookie in 2012, he made it to the Stanley Cup Finals, only to lose, unfortunately, to the LA Kings. Since then, Adam Henrique has played 837 regular season games, but he's only been to the playoffs once since. And that was in 2018. So to say he's not excited, he told me a funny story. So he's staying at the Marriott downtown, and you know what? He was in his room, and this was like earlier this week. And obviously, he looks out and he's like, he thought there was like a parade. He's like, what's a parade going on? All it was Oiler fans with flags on their cars driving around. It's like they're honking their horns. He thought it was great. But then he went out and he purchased some special earplugs because he's like, I can only imagine what it's going to be like over the next few weeks or months downtown. He's all for it, but he's planning ahead, getting some earplugs to ensure he gets a good sleep as the Oiler fans are celebrating outside. Anyway, he just talked about his excitement, kind of feeling like a kid again, getting back to the postseason.
Well, a lot of fun. You know, it's this is why we play. So it's something I've been looking forward to really since the trade. And you never look too far ahead and just try to focus on today and that sort of thing. And that's kind of my mentality since the trade. And now that we're here and a couple days away, it's exciting. It's to be here and to get being able to get a good understanding of really the city and the fans and what this team means to a lot of people here, and how integrated everybody is with the group, and that's been pretty special to be a part of for the last little while. So it's anytime you run into anybody, everybody talks about playoffs and how excited they are and how great it is here, and I'm just certainly excited to be a part of that.
When you first came here, we had a conversation, and you said how, it was going to be an adjustment just in how quick they played and how they transitioned the puck and go. And so now it's been a while. You look at I don't know, not everything is on goals, but your goal per game rate in Anaheim is the exact same you've had here. Have you found that comfort level? Do you notice it? And if so, what's the thing that you like about the game now that you got used to how they play here in Edmonton?
Yeah, just I think since it got here, there's been a lot of different line combinations, a lot of moving around, a lot of adjusting wing to center, a lot of those things. But I think that's that's a positive of our team. They can move guys around in a lot of different positions, a lot of different line combinations. Guys can move up and down, in and out, and you guys don't miss a beat. And I think that's a huge plus for our group. Shows a lot of poise, a lot of maturity within the group. Nobody's focused on themselves or individual assets. It's all about the team, and everybody buys into that, and you can see it, you can feel it within the group and within the dressing room. And I think that's something that's going to be big for us through the entire playoffs. So, getting adjusted, feeling comfortable within the group. On the ice, off the ice, all those sorts of things have really fallen into place, and the guys have really done a good job just making that easy for us.
This is the third year in a row these two teams have met. Obviously, you weren't here last year, and there's quite a few guys in your room that weren't here for either of the last two seasons. But being in Anaheim, obviously you played the Kings. The 1-3-1. Do you expect any surprises, for you? And will it be easy? And will there be, even though you're a veteran, you've been through it, but you haven't been in the playoffs ball, will you need to kind of calm your excitement and nerves in game one?
Yeah, I think you always do. You don't want to be too high. You don't want to be too low. And you want to try and stay even keel in every situation. I think, that can be tough to do. I think the atmosphere here will be next level. And, you can't help but get excited. You get those little bit of butterflies, that excitement. You're going a little faster and warm up. All these little things that go into it. But I think mentally trying to stay even keel is a big thing. Focus on ourselves and our game. LA's got a great group over there. They play the game hard. They play, I guess they play a little bit different with the style they play, but everybody, knows that and knows, I guess, what to expect, and two familiar teams going at it. So, I think for us, it's a matter of going out there, executing and playing at a high level that we're expecting ourselves to.
And lastly, you mentioned switching positions left, right. Now, you've been with Connor for a bit. I know the last games were some guys sitting out, but prior to that, you played a few games with him. You're skating again today. What have you learned about playing with a guy that's that dynamic? And he obviously is the transporter of the puck. Is it just about thinking the game? He's talking about how you're a very smart player, and he feels that you've fit in quite well. How do you feel you fit in?
Yeah, I think quite well. And for me, I think the game. And try to think the game one step ahead, and one play ahead, and where whoever I'm playing with is going to be or what they're thinking, and it certainly helps you get some games on your belt with everybody, and try to get that chemistry and be on the same page. Playing with him is, he plays the game at a different level, a different speed. He's like two steps ahead. So trying to think that far ahead, and my game really doesn't change. You try to play that. You try to play at that same speed, but that's tough to do. But he just creates. He creates space. He creates a lot of opportunities. So I think like a guy like Hyman on his wing too. You're at the net front, trying to find those areas where he's going to lay the puck or create that open ice for his line mates. So I think just adjusting to those little things, and then being able to read off each other and in certain situations, and talking to on the bench and in between periods, and that sort of thing too. What he wants me to do, or what I'm thinking in certain situations, just to help build that chemistry.
Adam Henrique, very excited to be back in the postseason. And, you like how he described, he's a very cerebral player. I think the difference between him and Nugent Hopkins is that Henrique plays a lot closer to the net more frequently. Nugent Hopkins is a little bit better skater, sure, no question. But I think Henrique is a player who plays around the net more. And, you've talked about, Connor McDavid's talked about him many times. The reason he feels Zach Hyman works really well with him is because Hyman's a guy who's around the net a lot. McDavid likes to have the puck, right? He still he's much more of a pass-first guy. Obviously, he scored 64 goals last year. He can score. But he still feels, kind of more comfortable passing. So now you put two guys on his line that are, more around the blue paint. Now, Henrique, not as much as Hyman, but more than Nugent Hopkins, kind of in the middle, right? But he's also a very cerebral player. And you heard him describe how you really have to think almost 2 steps ahead sometimes with McDavid, because that's where he's at. So you have to start being like, okay, well, he's there. He's thinking here, I'm going to go here. And a lot easier said than done. But there's a big reason why Henrique's playing there. And it's because of how he thinks the game. Pat Maroon was a very smart player, very simple in what he played, but he understood where to go in the offensive zone with McDavid. That's why I had such a great year playing with him. Now, obviously, you have Hyman, and he's better than Maroon is around the net. That's obvious, right? 54 to 28 goals, pretty big difference. Or 27, I think it was, that Maroon scored 24, 5-on-5. So I'm interested to see how that line does in the playoffs, right? It's a line that kind of got put together later in the season. And there's a lot of reasons why I think that line will have success. Obviously, when you have McDavid, you got a pretty good chance right there. But, you got a 54-goal scorer. And then you got a guy who's scored 25 multiple times, scored 28 times in his career. So, should be good. And then, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and Foegele, there's a little bit more speed overall. Obviously, Draisaitl's the main cog on that line as well. Fogel's having himself a career year. He should come into the postseason feeling very confident. And, the Oilers would like to get some more 5-on-5 production from Nugent Hopkins. It's call a spade here. They need a few more goals from him. Not a lot. I think he's a complimentary player. There's nothing wrong with that. But they'd like him to chip in a little bit more goal scoring wise, 5-on-5. Even on the power play, sure, but definitely 5-on-5. 322. We'll return. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440. When we return, Dennis Bernstein will break down the Kings side of things next on the Gregor Show, live in the EWEL studio, ewel.ca. When you think electrical, you think EWEL. 326. Welcome back. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. It is game day. Playoff game day. Oilers. Of course, Oilers and the Kings will be the final team to drop the puck on their game one. Actually, there'll be some teams that are already done. 2 games. Of course, Maple Leafs and Bruins playing game 2 tonight. Carolina and the Islanders also. And then you'll have Vegas and Dallas playing their first game of the 2024 playoffs, and it's time to go around the NHL. Brought to you by McDonald's. And hey, man, the McCafe cold brew is here. Smooth, satisfying, and irresistibly sippable. Try it with the French vanilla or the caramel cream. Or maybe, you know what, you're thinking, geez, I gotta stock up. I highly recommend the McNuggets with a few double cheeseburgers, no onions. It's a perfect pregame meal for you. Check it out at McDonald's. Our next guest is wearing an unbelievable kind of green and white trench coat today at the morning skate. As somebody who's always, I notice a good fashion sense. I quite like it from Dennis Bernstein from the Fourth Period and a longtime reporter for the LA Kings. Dennis, how you doing, my man?
Doing great, Jason. Yeah, I brought that out. It's the playoffs. And it's not me. Credit my wife. I married very well. That's how I get those great outfits. So
I thought maybe Daryl Evans took you shopping for that one.
Daryl Evans loved that coat, and that's a high compliment. So I got to get a picture with that coat tonight with Daryl. But it's great to be back in Edmonton, and I'm at the Marriott too, and I can hear the fans outside. I've got earplugs for tonight as well, but I'm looking forward to game 1.
Yeah, just like Henry. I thought that was awesome that he said that. That was great. Let's talk about the Kings. And Quentin Byfield had a great year, but you told me, I didn't even know he went 20 games here down the stretch without a goal. And it was more so him getting a little bit of a demotion down to Dubois, but also trying to get Dubois going. What do you make of these restructured lines here for the LA Kings that just happened late in the season? How long do you think they stay together?
The one constant with Jim Heller has been change, Jason. Like, he's not afraid to change lines, which is 180 degrees from what Todd McClellan did here. And part of the reason Todd isn't coaching anymore is he was resistant to change. The team went in a really bad stretch. They won 3 of 17 games. He goes, look, we're going to get out of it. We're in one right now, but really never changed anything. Jim Heller is willing to you asked me how long do I think Dubois and Byfield will stay together? I said, I don't know, 5 minutes, depending on how the game goes. So Jim is willing to do things, and I think it's a combination of 2 things. Those are 2 big players, and the physicality, they don't have a lot of physicality in Los Angeles. And you saw last year, you even saw it in March when I was up here. Remember the first period? The guy who threw the 3 biggest hits in the first period was Connor McDavid. So certainly the Oilers are going to try to be physical with the Kings. So I think that combination of 2 big bodies might help on the third line. And yet, Byfield's got to get going. You mentioned the 20 goals and no goals in 20 games. That was a huge issue because he wasn't going to the net anymore. And then in the final game of the season against Chicago, with a lot of money on the line, Jason, because he got 1 goal and 1 assist, he'd get $425,000 worth of bonuses, and he got it. So he got chirped pretty hard by his teammates after that 4-3 win in Game 82. It's a good combination, but the fact that Victor Arvidsson's returned, right, that allows Byfield to drop down. LaFerriere is going to be up top with Kopitar and Kempe. He's not a big-time goal scorer, but he's like maybe Alex Iafallo light, right? He's going to go and retrieve the puck, do some forechecking. He has a little bit of speed, not the fastest player on the team. So what you see in the opening faceoff or the first opening shifts of the game, you may not even see at the end of the first period with Jim Heller. So it's going to be interesting to see how he deploys. And he's going to go 12-6. He's done a lot of 11 forwards and 7 defensemen down the stretch. That's more out of necessity because Carl Grundstrom has been injured for the last 6 weeks. He's back on the lineup tonight. He's going to be on the 4th line. But you're going to see Byfield and Dubois to start, but that might shift around as the game goes.
What about Fiala? Right, like he's playing with Lizotte and Lewis, and like I don't know, for me anyway. And I don't watch the Kings all the time, Dennis, not nearly as much as you. But like this guy's a high offensive player, but he's not really playing with offensive guys. How come?
Well, he's going to drive that line. He's a line driver, and he is what I think he tied or was second in scoring. Wherever you put him, he's going to produce, Jason. And yes, it's a curious combination with Blake Lizotte and Trevor Lewis. It is. I agree with you. But you even asked me, why doesn't he play with a guy like Dubois? They can't play together. They tried it. It wasn't a disaster. It just didn't work. They both need the puck. And when you have 2 guys on the same line that need the puck, it's not going to work. So that's why you don't see Fiala with Dubois. Will it work? I don't know. And again, I don't pay much attention to these line combinations because you could see Fiala, let's say up top with Kopitar and Kempe by the time we're over with the game. But he's a very dangerous player. And that's the one thing. So will he make Lizotte and Lewis, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl? No, he won't. But he still can be productive and a threat on that line with two lesser offensive players.
Yeah. Dennis Bernstein joins us. Jim Hiller, when you look at him and what you see, how hard is he going to chase the matchup Deneau versus McDavid tonight?
I think very much so. I think from the speed standpoint, because Kopitar's had a great season, but Kopi's 36, and could he keep up with Connor? I don't think so. So I think that's a combination. That's a matchup that we'll see consistently. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of change in Jim Hiller's game with respect to how he deploys the lines. I think that's the one matchup that he wants and probably needs to have, because Dubois is not going to be able to cover Connor. That's not going to work. Right. So that's one matchup you'll see consistently, certainly more so in Los Angeles and Edmonton, because of course Milwaukee gets the last change, but that's one thing that they'll focus on in trying to stop Connor. And I think it's not stopping Connor, it's limiting Connor at this point.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So then you expect maybe the Kopitar Kempe against the now I know LA doesn't have last change, but is that the one they'd like, is Kopitar versus Draisaitl, the two big men?
Yeah, because I think there's less of a speed factor with respect to that. So I think that's what you'll see, at least to start. And again, that's the one great thing about Hiller. He's not, if it doesn't work, you could see Deneau with on Draisaitl, and you could see Kopi going back, and maybe they'll shift in rotation. And that's the one luxury that he has, right? You have two Selke candidates, one Selke winner, one Selke candidate, and you're 1 and 2 centers, so you can afford to try to play. And you're not going to lose that much defensively if you would shift and have, let's say, Kopitar on McDavid. So it depends on the game flow, and that's the one thing about Hiller. You have to watch the Kings closely in the game, because they change stuff all the time. They're very, very flexible with respect to the lines. And the fact that they have 12 forwards going, Jason, I think that it lends itself for more flexibility for Hiller. So again, what you see on the opening faceoff, you may not see the opening faceoff in the second period.
Yeah, no, and that's totally fair. Now, I look at the defense matchup. Obviously, we know who Doughty's they're going to try to get Doughty against for sure. But I look at the Kings' third pair. It's pretty inexperienced, Dennis. And like if I'm Chris Knobloch, I'm looking at the home like, I don't really care which forward line I have my guys, but man, anytime I can get one of my top two lines out against that pairing, I'm going to do it. How is there any concern in LA on the road about their third pair and the inexperience?
Yeah, there is. You have Jordan Spence, who's a small kid who's having issues tying up big players in front of the net, and you have Andreas England, who is a sixth defenseman. That's what he is. He's on the team because he has toughness. First half of the year, he must have fought 10 or 12 times. This team doesn't have a lot of toughness. This is the guy willing to drop the gloves. I don't think it happens in the playoffs. But yeah, there's an opportunity for the Edmonton Oilers to benefit playing against that third pair. So I'm interested to see how much time on ice will they get. Will they get over 10 minutes? You might see the top four guys going a lot. You might see Gavrikov, Roy, Mikey Anderson, I'm sure is a favorite of all Edmonton fans, and Drew Doughty going a lot more than you saw in the regular season. So yeah, it's not the best pair, but again, that's why they were a third place team. It's not the Vegas Golden Knights third pair defenseman. There's opportunity, for Chris Knobloch to go out and put out his top is one of his top two lines against that pair and possibly get a lot of scoring opportunities.
Dennis Bernstein joins us here on Sports 1440. Oilers and the Kings going at it tonight, then Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. What about the goaltending? Cam Talbot, David Rittich. I look at the numbers since Hiller took over. They have basically identical save percentage, 918 for Rittich, 917 for Talbot. Their goals against average is virtually the same, both very respectful. I think 2.2 and 2.34. Is there really a difference? Talbot started 21 of 34, so he's being the starter, but not like by a significant amount. Do you think we'll see both goalies, or is this series Talbot's to lose?
I think I just think they're a function of the team's defense, right? If they went with Rittich, I don't think there would be much difference, to be honest with you. But Rittich has only played 3 games in the last month, and 2 of them were against Anaheim and San Jose. Cam Talbot starting, right? Okay. Would he hesitate to go at Rittich? No, absolutely. If Cam underperformed, and let's say, the first 2 games, would he go to Rittich in game 3 at home? He wouldn't hesitate. But Cam's a better goalie, right? And they have a better goalie than the one they played in playoffs. Remember, Jason, last year in the playoffs, right? The Oilers got a book on Korpisalo. They shot high every time and beat him every time, and the power play destroyed him. I think Cam's better equipped to play better than Korpisalo did. So I think that there's an edge with respect to the Kings, not necessarily in goal, but I think they have a better goaltender going into the series they had in Korpisalo. No disrespect to Korpisalo. He helped save their regular season. He wasn't nearly good enough in the postseason. And Cam's got the experience, so you're going to go with that. But you're right. They're more like a system quarterback. They're more like system goaltenders. It's more a function of how well the team plays in front of them than him. Like they're not 45 goals save guys. Right? Yeah. If the Oilers lose to the Kings, they're not going to get goalied in the series. They won't, right? But they'll play good enough in net to win the series.
So that was going to be my question. If the Kings are going to win, how do you feel is the best road to success for them?
One guy, number 80, who's been underachieving, and I'm being kind, the entire season. They got Pierre-Luc Dubois for this game, for game 83 and beyond. That's what they said all year. And he hasn't been, Jason, he's been bad.
Yeah.
He's probably maybe the worst contract in the league this season. And I still talk to executives in the front office. They go, look, it's still in him. We got to get him out of it. But Todd couldn't. Jim kind of has. He had a good stretch the last couple of weeks. He's played better. But he's got to be the guy that showed up for Columbus against, Toronto, against Toronto. And he had 2 good playoff series. But he's got to be well. But if you can't do that, then you're not going to get any production from the bottom 6, and you're not going to win the series. Like, he has to show up. And he has to more than show up, Jason. He's got to be productive. He's got to be that 27 guy they thought they were getting, and he had 40 points this season and was a -9. He's a huge key to this series. Other than that, look, they were pretty good on the penalty kill against him, and they had, the second best penalty kill this season, the Kings. And I think they were like 10 of 13 in the penalty kill. So, look, they can't go in the box. They can't be a parade. They can't get dominated on the power play. They may not. But I think with respect to Pierre-Luc Dubois, he's got to show up and be productive. If he can do that, then the Kings might have an advantage on the bottom 6 because, look, let's be real. They're not going to have an advantage on the top 6, right? The better offensive team, top 6, are the Edmonton Oilers. Fact. No fact. It's the 1-3-1. Can they slow them down in the neutral zone? And that's the key, Jason. Can they stop the Oilers in the neutral zone? Can that 1-3-1 that every Canadian media outlet complains about, right? Can that slow down the Oilers in the neutral zone, stop 2-on-1, stop odd man rushes? That's also going to be a big key. So goaltending, yeah, but Dubois is going to be a big key. And can that 1-3-1 slow down the top 6 of the Oilers?
Let's say the Kings don't win and they lose for a 3rd year in a row playing the same system. Jim Hiller didn't really change much from Todd McClellan. How much hotter does Rob Blake's seat get as the GM, or would it simply be the coach and they would just look to say, okay, maybe we're going to change? Because even Drew Doughty said it a month ago, goes like, I don't really love the style we play, but that's what we play. Yeah. So, would there be a significant change, systemically, even, organization wise, if the Kings don't win this series?
Jason, no one knows. And here's why. Rob's got 1 year left on his contract. Now, the ownership in LA is not Steve Ballmer or Mark Cuban. It's an invisible ownership. Like Phil Anschutz is in Denver. He's never at the games. He's not. And Dan Beckerman, who is the president of AEG, isn't really visible or vocal as well. I don't really know. Luke Robitaille runs the organization, and the question is, Luke and Rob are tight forever since they played together. Would he be willing to turf him if he had to? So, but here's the thing, Jason: you can't 3 years in a row. You get to the playoffs and you've averaged 100 points a season, but there's no progression. Yeah. And now there may be regression because Kopitar's 36 and Drew's 34, and they've had fabulous seasons. You can expect that next season. So could there be change? Absolutely, because it's just not good enough. For an organization that won 2 cups a decade ago, Jason, there's 3 teams in the NHL since 2014, 2015 that have won a playoff round. One's Buffalo, the other one's Detroit, and the third are the Kings. They haven't won a playoff round since Jazz Hands Alec Martinez at Staples Center, when it was Staples Center back in 2014. It's winning time. And that's what, and even Rob said it when he fired Todd, he said, it's winning time. And they've got to win this series. And they don't, could there be significant changes? Yeah. But with respect to ownership not being vocal or visible, I don't think anybody around the team, including myself, knows what would happen if they don't win this round.
Now, let's say they don't. And this would be a massive, massive move. But Dubois is underachieved. He's got that rare 1/3 buyout. Would there be any chance that that's discussed in LA?
Yeah, because of the numbers. I think it would be. Now, they would try to trade him. And you heard the rumors at the trade deadline about him going to Boston, which, depending on who you talk to, were legit or not legit. I think they would go that route first. But
for Allmark.
Yeah, for Omar, right? Exactly. So here's the thing, Jason. If you're a scout and you scouted the Kings this year and your job depended on it, would you recommend to your general manager to trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois? I don't think so.
Fair point.
I don't think so. Now, if he comes out of the box next season, here's the thing about him, right? What you don't want to happen with Pierre-Luc Dubois is what happened in Calgary with Huberdeau. First year, bad. Okay, I get it. New contract, pressure, whatever. Second year, bad. They can't have another bad year from this guy. So could they look at that buyout? Yeah, when you look at the numbers, Jason, fine. But here's the thing. If you're the GM that signed to that contract, you're going to buy him out after 1 year. Now, if they change the GM, the first thing you could say is, if I was the GM, hey, I'm going to undo this biggest mistake we made last season, and I'm going to buy out Dubois. And then it's acceptable. Now, the question is, would AEG want to pay Pierre-Luc Dubois $27 million on a buyout?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that either.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Dennis, always good to talk to you, man. We appreciate it. We'll see you down at the rink.
Absolutely, JG. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
There you go. That is Dennis Bernstein from the fourth period. And, of course, a longtime beat reporter for the Kings. That would be a fascinating storyline. Because if the Kings don't win, I didn't know that. 3 teams since 2014-15 who have not won one playoff series. Huh. Interesting. 342. Gregor, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440. We got, we'll get more inside the room. We got lots of texts coming in. 833-401-1440. The excitement level, are you a little nervous, Oiler fans? Or are you pretty confident? I get the sense that there's more quiet confidence amongst Oiler fans than nervousness. I think, like, if you had to pick one, are you QC or are you N? Quiet confidence, nervous? I would think there's more people that are in the quiet confident camp right now. And I think you should be. The Oilers are good. Now, it won't be a cakewalk. It's not going to be easy. But I think the Oilers are the better team. Now they got to show it. That's what makes the playoffs so awesome. Quick break. We'll come back and more on the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca, where through the playoffs, use the promo code Gregor50 and you'll get a free $50 play at PlayAlberta.ca.
Until June 8th, make the shift to more savings at Found.
3:48. Welcome back. It's game day. Oh, man. Looking forward to the play. I loved watching this weekend. Oh. Even the NBA, man. Did you see David Lillard last night? Oh, my goodness. What an unreal first half for him last night. I've got TV, I'm channeling, I'm recording. I was PVRing. At one point, I think I had like PVR having 4 other games because you know what? You get to halftime on one, you go back to the other one, then you can kind of fast forward, watch certain parts. Oh, I love it. It's awesome. So it's almost a little bit of an overload. I'm not gonna lie. Like there are times where I'm like, geez, maybe I should get a second TV, but I'm like, I don't want a second TV because it's gonna screw with the feng shui of the way I have my the fan room built. So, and I'm like, okay, I only need it for a certain time of the year. Like, I don't love NFL regular season that much to watch multiple games at once. Plus, you can just get red zone and just flips over it, so that's easy enough. But the playoffs, man, it's outstanding. And now, like with your all new boxes and stuff, a lot of times you watch one channel for 5 minutes, you go back, you can switch channels, and you can rewind, and it's great. But it was if you're a fan of playoffs, man, how can you not like it? It was it was great, and that Colorado Winnipeg game, that was entertainment to the max. It was like it's just like they're going back and forth, and I know it's not perfect hockey. I know some are like, I don't want too many goals. Well, that's you. That's fine. You can have it, but I don't mind lead changes at all. They're back and forth. Now they're up 1-0. Now it's 2-1. Now suddenly it's 3-2. It's back and forth. And I just enjoyed for the entertainment value. I had no horse in the race. I'm guessing if you're an Avs or a Jets fan, it might have been a little stressful, but hey, it's good. Very good. Hey, Gregor, dumb question. When I look at your article in Oilers Nation, it says GDB. I know it's game day. What's the B for from Greg's? That one comes in from Tiger. Well, that goes back to the, like 2007. I'm pretty sure Wanye. It was game day. Biatches is what it means. So I was like, I'm not writing that. So I just made a GDB. So that's what it stands for. So there you go. That's right. Also, it's like, oh man, Brownlee. We used to have quite a few acronyms. Brownlee have it. Brownlee had the he used to shove it up the what of doubters. Oh man, that was a classic. I haven't read that one in a long time. I might have to bring that one back in honor of old Bronte. God, I miss the bison head. You know, his laugh right about now. I'm gonna be chirping about something. Oh, plus he'd be wearing his Vancouver Canucks PJs, which he always hated admitting, but yeah, I'd be wearing those too right now. As the Canucks was that their first playoff, home win, because they haven't had a home playoff game in 9 years. So good for them. Just like, hey, Oilers fans, you haven't seen a game 1 win of a series. Think about this for a second. If you're a season ticket holder or you're just a regular goer to the playoff games, game 1 of a series, the Edmonton Oilers are they haven't won one at home in the McDavid era. The only game 1 they won was in Anaheim in 2017. Ended up losing that series. They haven't won a home game that was game 1 of a series since 1991 in the second round. So now there was quite a few years, 97, 98. They never had any home games for game 1. So you got to keep that in mind. But game 1 of a series, you kind of want to get off to a good, now it hasn't hurt them against the Kings, right? So they don't need to win, but it wouldn't hurt. It would not hurt at all. So. Hey, Greggs, I don't know if you've touched on it, but what's your opinion on Stone miraculously coming back from injury for game 1 from Jerry? Well, I don't think it's a miracle, right? I think it's a team that is using the rules to their benefit. Clearly, Mark Stone, had the playoffs started last week, he probably would have been healthy. Now, if they started 2 weeks ago, maybe not. But last week, for sure. So the rule states the doctor has to sign off on everything, and I actually talked to some other GMs about like how serious it is when they look at the injury report to put a guy on LTIR. They say it's quite extensive. You can't fake an injury to put someone on there. I've always said that you can't fake it. However, it's the return timeline of when the player comes back. Now think about it. What's the one thing fans say when a guy's injured? Don't rush him back. Don't rush him back. Don't rush him back. So now a team doesn't rush him back and everybody gets pissed off. But I also find it funny the many people that are like, this rule stinks, were the same people that were all yesterday being like, Oilers should have put Kane on LTIR. Well, I thought you don't like that. Well, no, if it benefits my team, then I like it. Which is fine. Just at least admit it. You don't like the rule if other teams benefited, but if it can benefit your team, you'll do it. And that's why the NHL GMs to this point haven't changed it. Right? Because they look at, and I'll tell you right now, if Vegas loses to Dallas, there's not going to be a lot of people complaining. They're going to say, okay, I see a lot of people tweeting out, oh, look at this, 3rd year in a row, Mark Stone. Well, at least be accurate if you're going to chirp. In 2022, yes, Mark Stone got injured. And then he returned in April. But in 2022, remember, the regular season ended at the end of the month. He came back for the final 9 games, maybe 10 of the regular season. So he came off of LTIR, meaning now his contract counts against the cap. So there was no cap circumvention then. When he got injured, they were in first place. He missed 9 weeks. When he came back, they were in 9th place. And then they missed the playoffs. Right? Like that's why, do I believe players just fake injuries? No. Do they ensure that the recovery time can be beneficial cap-wise? Clearly they do. But it's not against the rules. So you can hate them for doing it, but it's not against the rules as it's currently written. So is this something the NHL is going to try to change before the CBA that's currently there it runs out? I'd be stunned. Because usually if it's like, well, if we want something, then you got to give something. Right? So they might not want to give anything during the negotiation. Now, for the next negotiation, it could be changed. Because remember, in 2005, 2006, when the NHL returned and they came back and it was the first year of the cap, originally they had it that you could just bury a contract in the minors. If the guy made $5 million, it didn't matter. You put him in the minors, he didn't count against the cap. So what happens? Now teams like, hey, let's take this guy, trade for this guy. If it doesn't work out, we got a huge amount of money made for our team. It doesn't count against the cap. We don't care. But other teams are like, hey, wait a sec. We don't like this. So in the next CBA, they negotiated in the fact that you can send a player to the minors. However, only a certain amount doesn't count against the cap, and it's a small amount, right? Like look at Jack Campbell, for instance. He's in the minors, but he's a 3.82 million, whatever it is, 3.8 and change, because it's 1.125 that doesn't count against the cap. The rest counts, right? So they changed that rule. So they've proven they can do it. So I would think if there's enough of an appetite, they would change it. But I don't see it changing next year. I don't see it changing until the next CBA. So that's how it goes. And also, I know there's been a lot of people on Twitter, so maybe not a lot of people, claiming, the Oilers, they screwed up. They should have put Kane on LTIR. It's like they don't understand how LTIR works. Evander Kane has played the whole year. So clearly the injury wasn't that severe because he only missed 2 of the first 79 games. Now, he did miss the last week of the season, said he, aggravated himself against Vancouver. Well, it's no different than Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid was hurt early in the season, right? Then he played through his injury. It was a little nagging. Guess what? Then he re-aggravated. Then he missed 3 games. No one was calling to say, well, the Oilers should have put McDavid on LTIR. Why? Well, because it's McDavid. Right? So, and you can't just force a player on there. right? And in a case like this, we just had Grant Fedoruk on explaining how usually, the first trial, they will say, okay, let's do some rest, do some treatment. Well, Kane never really rested, so it clearly wasn't bugging him enough. I know he says he's been dealing with it all year, but he's also the same guy that after his coach said in the Ottawa game he was a maintenance day, was a healthy scratch, what did Kane say? No, I wasn't. I was healthy. It was a healthy scratch. So how hurt was he? Right? Like, people were just blindly believing Evander Kane, like, oh my goodness, this guy, I can't believe they're playing him. It's the same guy who said March 26th he was healthy. So you have to understand how the LTIR works. That's not like, did they put Ryan McLeod when he was out on LTIR? Not originally, no. He sat out. Then they put him on LTIR retroactive. So they call a guy up for a day or two, and then he was activated off, right? But he didn't go on LTIR right away. And he also didn't have surgery. He just healed up. But would you want your team to use the rules to their benefit if you can? 100%. But like, that's what you should say is, hey, I don't really like that Vegas is doing it, but in a way it's smart. But it also means you have to have a guy seriously injured, right? In 2022, Mark Stone was seriously injured. They were in first place. When they came back, they were in ninth. Did it help them? It did not. Last year, yeah, it helped them. Although their playoff salary cap was actually $82.5 million. I know people don't want to hear it, but it's true. Now this year, we'll see. Like I've said, if Vegas loses out in the first round, opposing GMs are going to be like, meh, there's really no benefit. If anything, they might have screwed themselves because now they can't re-sign Jonathan Marchessault because they don't have any money because they acquired Thomas Hertl. So we'll see. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook as we get to Sports 1440 update brought to you by High Street Insurance. They are people taking care of people for over 10 years, servicing Canadian businesses just like yours. Learn more at an Edmonton-based company that is now national, highstreetinsurance.com.
This is the Sports 1440 update.
Finally here, it's game one of the Oilers-LA Kings series as they're meeting down at Rogers Place. Puck drop closer to 8:20 in this one for pregame coverage. Keep it locked on the Oilers Nation, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter stream. Aaron Bordato's got you covered with pregame and with boards. 3 other games tonight. The Maple Leafs in Boston taking on the Bruins. Boston lead that series 1-0. Carolina looks to take a 2-0 series lead over the Islanders at 5:30, and at 7:30 the Golden Knights in Dallas. Vegas will have captain Mark Stone in the lineup. The Buffalo Sabres have hired Lindy Ruff as their next head coach. Ruff returns to Buffalo, where he served as the bench boss from 1997 to 2013. He made 8 playoff appearances, including a trip to the final in 99. Ruff had spent the last 4 seasons in New Jersey before being fired in March. In the association, 3 playoff games tonight. The Cavaliers leading the series 1-0, take on the Magic. Then at 5:30, you got the Sixers in New York. New York leads that series 1-0. And at 8 o'clock tonight, the Lakers look to even up their series with the Nuggets, currently trailing 1-0. Major League Baseball, Blue Jays are in action. They travel to Kansas City to take on the Royals. First pitch set for 5:40. You've also got the White Sox in Minnesota. Braves host the Marlins. Tigers up against the Rays. The Phillies head to Cincinnati. Cards host the Diamondbacks. Padres in Colorado. And the Orioles up against the Angels. Earlier today, the Yankees blanked by the Athletics 2-0. And from the NFL, the Denver Broncos acquiring former number 2 overall pick Zach Wilson from the New York Jets. The Broncos expected to trade a 2024 6th rounder for the quarterback and a 2024 7th rounder. Coming up in hour 3 of the Jason Gregor Show, we'll be joined by Wanye Gretz of Oilers Nation, Andy Petrillo from CBC Sports, and we'll ask 5 questions. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440, Stingray Radio Station. CKJR broadcasts from West Edmonton Mall.
It's after 4 o'clock. Welcome back. It's the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca, coming to you live on Oilers Nation YouTube and Facebook. Also, Sports1440.ca. We have a big announcement coming up tomorrow morning, the Kevin Carius show. Some changes coming. So it's nice. It's good. So that'll be tomorrow here on Sports 1440, which ties in nicely with the playoffs. And speaking of playoffs, PlayAlberta.ca. Use the promo code Gregor50 and you will get a $50 bet at PlayAlberta.ca. They got to make a $5 deposit, but $5 for 50. Hey, do the math. You're not going to get those odds on any bet you make. Well, I guess unless you're doing some super duper extraordinary parlay, but it's pretty good. Don't waste it all in one place at PlayAlberta.ca. The promo code Gregor50. Gregor50. The Oilers. Hey, speaking of 50, do you know what tonight is? Anybody making a 50 connection? Wanye Gretz, you're looking at me with your face all crinkled up.
That's just how I look.
Yeah.
Got to get some Botox.
You can move your mic down if you don't want to sit up so high.
Don't mind. This is how tall I am.
Oh, okay. It's looking like a really kind of like a little kid at the platform. Hey, I was picking up there. Hi guys, how's it going? Right.
I'm just wondering about that big announcement. We're not going back to music again, are we, Gregor?
Oh, well, that would be a dumb announcement.
Oh, thank God.
No, it's not. The opposite direction. But 50 tonight. So you don't know what the 50 connection is for tonight?
It's our 50th playoff series.
No. Connor?
Got nothing. Not a 50th birthday by anyone or for anyone.
No, not a 50th birthday. Do any of our listeners know what the significance of the 50 is tonight for the Edmonton Oilers? If you want to get specific, it's like a three-way 50.
50.
All right. Now, not in the way that some of you, not that there's anything wrong with that, are thinking. Okay. But it involves Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Leon Draisaitl, and Connor McDavid. All three of them are playing their 50th playoff game tonight. Where do you think they rank? How many Oiler teammates have more than 50 playoff games over those three?
Active Oilers on the team right now.
Oilers on the team in the lineup tonight. How many more have 50 games in the order? Those guys.
4.
Incorrect. Corey Perry, tonight's game 197. Then you have Zach Hyman, Cody Ceci, Matthias Ekholm, Matthias Janmark, Evander Kane. All have more.
Calvin Pickard.
Brett Kulak also has more. So there. No, Calvin Pickard has never played a playoff game. Sam Carrick will play his first playoff game tonight. Dylan Holloway, this will be his second. His first, he played 3 minutes back in 2022. So it's kind of going to be like his first one because he'll be heavily involved in the game, I would think, prior to that. Darnell Nurse, this will be his 48th. But the point is the Oilers have a lot of experience now heading into the playoffs. Like when you two of your best players, biggest guys, they're like 9th, 10th, and 11th in playoff games played. That's a good problem for the Oilers. Experience matters in the playoffs. Obviously, you need skill. The Oilers have a lot of skill. I think this is the best suited team to go deep in the playoffs. Now, of course, doesn't mean they'll win, but is the best suited team to go deep in the playoffs. And speaking of the game tonight, Colin, where are we at on our? Where are we at? 650.
650. Yes.
650 has it. Big baby for the tickets tonight. Oilers and the LA Kings. Great seats, by the way. So if you want to go, we're doing it for Gregor's Grads because we had a few last minute additions. So I need to raise a little bit more funds. So you'll go to the game knowing that you're going to make a big difference for a kid to get a suit, shirt, ties, shoes, socks, and a belt for their upcoming graduation for Gregor's Grads. All right. So 650 is currently in it's section 115. These are my seats, so I can tell you 100%. I know the sight lines. I know where I sit. They're very good seats for the game. And good section, lots of fun people around you. You'll enjoy it. So unless you're a fun sponge, you'll want to bid. If you don't like fun, you probably don't want to bid. So it's that easy. So see where it goes. Hey, guys, I was listening online. I got it before you said it. Oh, maybe you should listen live on the radio, Juice. No, I'm kidding. That is good. It's good. So the only reason Nurse isn't there is because he was suspended for 2 playoff games. That's why he's 2 behind them. So in case, because we had, what about Nurse? I said, well, he was suspended for 2. So there you go. Oilers lineup in case you missed it. Of course, McDavid, Hyman, and Henrique. Draisaitl, Fogle, and Nugent Hopkins. McLeod will center Holloway and Perry. Carrick will center Janmark on the right wing and Evander Kane. Ekholm and Bouchard. Nurse and Ceci. Desharnais and Kulak. And Stuart Skinner in goal for the Oilers. On the other side, the LA Kings. They changed their lines a little bit. I'm curious to see what they start with. Might not be what they finish. Lafayette has moved up. He'll play with Kopitar and Kempe. More with Deneau and Arvidsson. They're going to try to put them against the McDavid line as much as they can. Dubois with Byfield and Grundstrom. And then Lizotte with Lewis and Fiala. Anderson, Doughty, Gavrikov and Waugh. And then Englund and Spence. Watch how Knobloch, I'm very interested to see how he tries to exploit that third pair. That is the clear weakness on the Kings defense, right? Their top 4, good defensive experience, good physical. Englund's big and physical, but you got 2 guys with a grand total of 3 playoff games in that third pair. I think the Oilers, it's playoff time. You got the last change. They're out there, defensive zone starts. Watch for it to see who. I don't know if it matters as much as the forward line, but I think at times if you are Knobloch, now I know he doesn't chase matchups, and it's not like you'll get it often, but it could only be once or twice, and that can be the difference, right? You score a key goal. So we will see. A lot of texts coming in, 833-401-1440. Hey, boys, what do you think of Knobloch's thoughts on Janmark in over Brown? I've said it all along. The coach really likes the reliability and the consistency of Matthias Janmark. He's strong. He's a bigger body. He doesn't lose any battles in his own zone. I shouldn't say any. Everybody loses some. And I've always said this. Can you show me a time? I don't care what the underlying numbers tell me. Just show me examples of Matthias Janmark making mistakes with or without the puck. And he doesn't. The coaches, they like that. Right? You know what? He showed he was gritty, dropped the mitts a few times, big body. They like him, right? And now I can tell you, who's quite annoyed right now is Connor Brown. He wants to be playing 100%. I get it. And if anybody has an off night, I don't think the coach will hesitate to make a lineup change. So it's a good problem to have. That's why you have depth. But yeah, when people said, well, Holloway's going to play for Janmark, I said, I don't think there's any chance Janmark's coming out. I thought there was a better chance that, Carrick or Ryan would come out over him. And so he's in tonight. Now it's game 1. How you start doesn't mean how you finish. We've seen it for the Washington Capitals with goaltending, lots of other players. Healthy scratch early, you come in, you make a big difference. Right? Some guys start on the 3rd or 4th line. By the end of the playoffs, they're moving up in the top 6 because they're playing well. So who knows what happens.
Did anybody text in to say that they're excited about the playoffs, Gregor? Because if not, I would like to add that to the conversation. I am extremely excited about tonight's game.
That's the question earlier, quiet confidence or nervousness. And I would say the vast majority of texters, and because I said, hey, just, so they didn't have to write line, I said, you can just text in a QC or an N. And it was probably about like 80-20 in favor of the QC, quiet confidence. And honestly, I think Oilers fans should be confident, but that doesn't mean that you think it's going to be a walk in the park. But I believe if the Oilers play to their capabilities and LA plays to their capabilities, Edmonton's a better team. Top to bottom. They're a better team. So, they got better offense. The one thing LA's better at, their penalty kills being better this year. No question. Right? So, and their power play is actually surprisingly been pretty good. And I talked to Ryan McLeod about their power play today in LA, and he said the one thing they do, they shoot the puck very well. He says they got a lot of shooters, and they move it around, and they can shoot from different spots. So, it's a challenge. Even though they don't have, the elite superstar guys, their power play numbers, they rotate around pretty well and they shoot from different areas. Adrian Kempe's a really good shooter. So that's what the Oilers have to watch for. And I think last year, the Oilers absolutely murdered the Kings on special teams. They scored 9 power play goals on only 16 chances. 56%, for God's sakes. Right now, I don't expect them to be 56 because the LA last year was 26th in the regular season on the penalty kill. This year, they're 2nd. Right? It would be Even if Edmonton can be 25%, would be really good considering what LA's penalty kill, 85% all, well, 84.6, but 85% all year long. Right? So if the Oilers power play is 25%, that's a success for them and will make it harder for LA.
I wish I had quiet confidence, Gregor. I'm in that second category. What was it? Neurotic?
Nervous.
Yes, of course. Nervous. I will pace around in the kitchen of Wanye Manor with the game on in the other room, and then I'll come peek around the corner scaredly, and then I'll go back into pacing around the island because I just don't. It's very hard to sit down in the first few games of the opening round. Anything can happen. Anything.
Hey, guys, one of the things I've noticed about the playoff games is 90% of D-men have a few mistakes in most games. Some of the Oilers fans are going to freak out if there's a giveaway or another goof up by Nurse, Bouchard, or anybody else. People, you remind them it happens. Yeah, you're probably watching the Colorado game. Yeah. Oh, right. It happens, right? Like when you're in the playoffs and everything is quicker and faster, it is harder. Yes. Victor like I said, go back and look at Cale Makar's numbers 5-on-5 in the conference final in the Stanley Cup. He got outscored 12-6, 5-on-5. Now he plays against the best players. He's considered one of the best players. And he still got outscored in the third and fourth rounds, the most important time of the year, 12-6. But guess what? They won, so no one really cares because nor should they. Right now, he scored a lot on the power play, right? Because there's other ways to do it. But yeah, you're the other team. When you're a top defenseman and you have to play against the other team's top two lines, guess what? They got good players. As Drew Doughty always said, I love playing against the best players. They're going to beat me sometimes. That's how it goes. Right? Like, no defenseman's out there like, oh, look at me. I'm the best. And I like Connor McDavid. He gets beat. I mean, he's made defensive reads and wrong ones. It happens. So you're right. Now, the key is you want to try to eliminate them. I've always said, if you can keep your errors to 3s and 4s and not 10s, well, then you got a chance. Right? Like, I was watching I went through the highlights of game 1 of the last 2 years for the Oilers. And in 2022, the Oilers were up 2-0, and then they're up 3-1, and the Kings tied it, and then the Kings scored with just about 5 minutes left. Deneau scored after Mike Smith, put a pass up the middle. Now, the initial shot they didn't score on, right? They got reset, but then they went back to the point, shot, deflected, goal. Now, yeah, they got a second chance. They buried it. They didn't bury it on the first one. Smith made a ridiculous save. But the play stays in the zone. It's all responsible for it, right? And people are freaking out, but the Oilers came back. They won. Mike Smith made later on. I think there was that one play where he feathered it up like the full length of the ice. They score in the breakaway, right? Sick pass. So it's going to happen both ways. And it's good advice, but I will say this, the playoffs, if there was ever a time to be a tad irrational as a fan, I kind of think that's what the playoffs are for. Now, you might want to keep it to yourself, right? Like you're in your home, you're cursing, you're swearing, whatever. It's kind of the time where you want to get a little bit high strung because trust me, like when they score a goal, you're going to be infinitely happier than you would be when they score a goal in the regular season. It's just how it is. Like you don't be a fan and then not cheer in the playoffs. Like I think there's I give people more leeway of the fanaticism in the playoffs than I do in the regular season. When people freak out too much in the regular season, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, then they're just negative. Like, do you know the people that are just negative, right? Nothing's ever good enough. Like the person can't even skate, yet they talk like it's like this guy's a moron. He's terrible. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. But in the playoffs, I'm like, that's a little bit different. Because I get that people are literally like, I know people, if the Oilers lose tonight, they will go to bed and they will lay in bed and be mad for like an hour before they fall asleep.
I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, Gregor, this morning, and I was sitting in bed and I was like, hey, just Wanye, calm down. Just think about secondary Oilers. That isn't even that exciting. But then I was thinking like, what if Sam Gagner comes in the lineup and he scores a crazy goal? What if Janmark plays out of his soul and gets a hat trick? So I got up at 4:30 in the morning, Gregor, thinking the day would fly by. And then suddenly it was 10:30 in the morning and I'd already been up for 6 hours. I had nothing to do. Challenge accepted. Be more fanatical. Challenge accepted, Gregor. Thank you.
Yeah, why not? Well, I'm not saying you have to be. I'm just saying I can understand. I would say allow. I don't control it. I understand why people become a little bit more, fired up, right? Because think about it in certain things in life. Like I know Connor Halley. You want to know what gets Con Man fired up?
Chargers games?
Not even anymore. Like he's just so used to losing. I think it's almost beating him down. But Connor Halley might be one of the calmest people you'll meet, except in certain situations on the road.
It's true. And you never get used to losing, but
Yeah.
the Chargers have pushed me as far as they can. Yeah, I get pretty fired up on the road.
For the Chargers.
No. Bad
Just
drivers.
on the road. Like there's certain things he
Little
doesn't like.
things.
Like just little things. Constant. Like what's the one thing that really gets your goat?
It's so stupid. So you're driving down the street, let's say, Wanye. You're heading northbound on 178th towards Stony Plain Road.
Go on, yes.
There's a lane that opens up and becomes the turning lane. You know? So
yes.
for those who want to turn left. I hate when people don't signal to turn into the lane, but then are in a designated turning lane and then throw on their signal light. I don't get it. Also non-waivers and a few other things. But it shouldn't bug me as much as it does. But why are you when I know you're turning, you don't have to tell me.
Gregor, I can't identify this at all. I couldn't tell you if I've ever witnessed this happening in my life.
It happens all the time.
This is what happens if you're too calm in day-to-day life. You'll bottle up your rage.
You know what?
for
Eventually, you're
weird-
right. See, like I get it out a lot. So there's little things that don't really bug me. But I do know that one. But it's like the red car theory. Now that Connor's experienced it once, he notices it every time. And I totally get it. And everybody has those certain things in life that if you see it, like, trust me, people who drive right up and don't know how to merge bothers me. It bothers me all the time. I'm like, don't you understand? Like, just go like a zipper. That's how it's supposed to work, right? And the other people, like, you come in the lane on the left. You're supposed to be going there, and they're just supposed to let you in. And they don't. You're like, you don't even know. And they get mad at you because they don't know. They don't know how the merge works. It's ridiculous. Bothers me. Why? It shouldn't, but it does. You don't know how to merge, do you? You're
Probably not, Gregor.
like-
I'm a bad driver. You
Yeah.
know how I do.
No, dude, I don't know if I've ever driven in a vehicle where you were the driver.
There's a reason for that. Most people don't let me drive an inch in a car. They say, Wanye, you're a good guy to be
Oh,
co-pilot.
no, that's not true. Once I think I drove. You drove once. Not very far, but I think you did once.
Do you remember me doing anything grandpa-like? Because I'm told I drive like a grandpa.
No. It was midday. It wasn't very busy on the road.
I used to get photo radar tickets like people collect Pokemon. And I one day said to myself, Wanya, you have to change.
Okay.
You have to drive slower. You are getting too many tickets.
Fair. So
And
now you did. You just pulled it back. And now you drive the speed limit.
And I get parking tickets instead.
Oh, well, there. I guess everybody's got their weakness.
hobby.
Everybody's got a hobby. 425. Do you want to go to the game tonight? We're at $650 for the tickets right now. 833-401-1440. Great seats. Orders Kings. Tonight, when we return, we will keep talking hockey. We'll get more in the room. The Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
You know,
And welcome back, Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, Wanye Gretz with you on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation YouTube. Excuse me. Jeez. Bad timing for a sneeze there. Yowzers. Good thing I had the cough button there, Wanye.
You're a pro, Gregor. Nothing phases you.
Wouldn't see that. Wouldn't be good. Wouldn't be good at all.
You ever had the hiccups on air?
I did once. Yeah. I don't get the hiccups very often, but yeah, I had them once. I was trying everything. It was annoying as you know what.
When we were on the air and your mic stand exploded and you caught it in one hand and kept talking, I was like, this is the height of professionalism. Nothing. A lightning bolt could go through the roof of the mall and strike your computer and you would keep going.
Yeah, that was we have to find someone who wrecked that. But yeah, that was good. That was good
You
reaction.
caught it,
I know.
Gregor.
It was
incredible.
It was like a subtle, humble brag inside. I was like, ooh, way to be alert. So it was nice. It's good. It's good to see people notice that because they always say you don't want to draw attention. It's like when you screw up saying a word, usually just keep talking. You try not to draw attention to it. It's number one rule because then somebody, well, did he say that? I'm not sure. Now that was different because before there was nothing, now people can go back in a podcast if they really want to find it. So it's all there, but it's normally the number one rule. You make the mistake, just, and when you think about it, that would work very well in relationships sometimes. Sometimes it's better just be like, I don't want to talk about it. Let's just keep moving ahead. Obviously, depending on what it is. So we might have to get into the story you told before the show today. We might have a conversation with our audience about that. We'll see. Maybe in the 5 o'clock hour, just leading up. Get fans, because as it gets close to the game, fans get a little bit nervous. We might have like a humorous relieve your playoff anxiety topic to discuss for sure. Let's get to our big contest, courtesy of Action Electrical, and Here Comes the Sun. It's a fantastic prize where somebody's going to win a $15,000 solar system for your home. That's amazing. So with Action Electrical, so this includes a site assessment, structural engineer and permitting costs, the supply and installation of a solar system on your home, or you can donate it to someone. So today, on the first day of the playoffs, everybody's in a giving mood. Today, text in if you know someone that if you qualify that you would gift it to. Somebody that maybe really needs it. They're like, man, we know they're in a tight situation. Because think about, obviously getting the system itself is great, but it's the long-term savings on your power bill. We have it at our farm. And I'm telling you, like anybody out there who runs a farm knows there's your power bills can be extremely high come wintertime when, you're trying to heat the barn and you're getting all the water and everything like that. It builds up pretty quick. Ever since my mom put it in, she's had it for 7 years now on the barn. And in the winter months, the summer months, there's nothing. And the winter months have been reduced now by like 90%. It is a big difference. So this will be one that you can get on your home. So if you know somebody that you think, hey, you know what, they've really wanted it, maybe just never been able to do it, and they live within a 50-kilometer radius of Edmonton, St. Albert, Spruce Grove, Beaumont, Morinville, Fjord Park, right? All the other great places around. Okay. So there you go. You can text in your name and the person that you would gift it. Well, you don't have to say their name because what if they're listening? You want to surprise them. So that's fair. We don't want to ruin the surprise. But today we'll just do a random draw from somebody who wants to say, hey, I got someone who I think can win or should win. 833-401-1440. We'll give you 5 minutes to think about it. You want to gift it to somebody. That has to be a homeowner, though, and reside within 50K of the Edmonton area. 833-401-1440. Conman will get it in the text machine and fire it right up, and away we go. Also, big news today. Shout out to Warburg, as once again, the small little hamlet of Warburg has 2 NHL coaches. 2 out of 32. Like, the odds of that are so astronomically low. It's amazing. But if you missed it, Lindy Ruff is back in the NHL as the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres. Lindy Ruff going back to Buffalo, where he had a lot of success with the Sabres for many years. Right now, he played with them for a long time. And then, man, he coached the Sabres for, I want to say 15 or 16 years, from like 98 to 2013, maybe. So I think they made the playoffs probably 50% of the time. Went to the conference finals once. They lost. Everybody remembers. I know Allison Curry still, just gets a little twitchy when, she's excited because they beat her team beat Buffalo. But, a lot of people think it was cheating, the Brett Hall goal, even though they had changed the rules late in the year. We don't want to revisit it, but still. It was a tough one for Sabres fans. I get it. They had some very good teams back in. The Dominator, right? They had some really good teams. So Lindy Ruff, who went from coaching Buffalo, then the next year he coached Dallas. Then after leaving Dallas, then he was an assistant with the Rangers for a few seasons. Then the head coach of the New Jersey Devils for the past 3.5 years. And now he's going right into Buffalo to be their head coach. So congrats to Lindy. That is quite, you think about it, to be a coach, he's basically been an NHL coach, either an assistant or a head coach since 1993-94. It's a pretty good 30-year run, my man.
Who else is from Warburg?
The head coach of the Seattle Kraken. You didn't know that?
No.
Dave Hackstall, buddy.
Oh.
You were thinking on who the Kraken head coach was, weren't you?
Well, I started thinking about Jordan Everly.
Yeah. No. So he's not the coach. It's not him. So there you go. Hey guys, who do you think has a better bottom six, LA or Edmonton? From Doug. Well, if you looked on paper, Doug, Kevin Fiala plays in the bottom six for the LA Kings. The Edmonton Oilers don't have a guy as productive as Kevin Fiala. Now, right now, though, so I guess the argument comes when you look up and down the Kings lineup is like the Kings top lines, they're not as productive, right? Like you look at Phil Deneau, 47 points, good player, right? Like they got, Deneau and Trevor Moore on their second line, solid guys. And then, Quentin Byfield. Now, he's going to start the game tonight with Pierre-Luc Dubois. So that's one bottom six line, and then your other line has Lewis, Lizotte, and Fiala. But you really have three guys. Kevin Fiala, who had 73 points, is in their bottom six, although, he gets obviously a lot of power play time. And then you have Quentin Byfield and Pierre-Luc Dubois. So, yes, on paper, you look at production, no question, they have more productive players. Do I believe that Byfield is going to stay there this entire series? I do not. I don't think Lafayette is going to really be in their top six. Like that really, as it strengthens the bottom six, it weakens the top six. Right? Like, how can it not? Lafayette is like a 12-goal scorer. So, yeah, LA has a better bottom six, but I don't think they have a better defense. They definitely don't have a better offense. I don't think they have a better goaltending. Right now, they have a better penalty kill, though, for sure. So, but the Oilers have a better power play. It's going to be a good matchup. Hey, guys, speaking of Lindy Ruff, no offense to him, I think it's great, but don't you think the NHL always recycles coaches? Why wouldn't they look for somebody young? Like, look at the Oilers. They brought in Knobloch. Look what he's done. It's a fair question. It's a very valid question. And I look at Buffalo. They went to Don Granato, who had never really been an NHL head coach. Now, he'd been around for a long time. He'd coached in a lot of places, but never been an NHL head coach. They haven't made the playoffs in 13 years. So now is going back to a guy who's an NHL guy. I think they're going to say, hey, came into New Jersey. Nobody thought he'd win New Jersey, and he got him to the playoffs once. Maybe he can do it. Lindy has a history, though, of helping teams get a little bit better defensively, and that's really what Buffalo has to do. So I think it's an owner being comfortable with the guy he's bringing in. And in business, who sometimes matters more than what you know. I think that's probably fair. But I think it is a valid thing to look and say, would you have been better off bringing up a young guy? And I think it's a fair question. It's not a knock on Lindy Ruff, but I think it's a valid question.
People want to deal with the devil that they know, though, right? And when you said, what was his record as a Sabres coach, like 500 getting in the playoffs?
Yep.
Now they haven't made for 13 years.
Yep.
So the owner's sitting there being like, the devil I know was in the playoffs half the time he was here.
Yep.
So if we go back to the well and bring in the new guy, whereas the young coach you're theoretically bringing in, you don't know if he can win it all at that level. When you've already made a risk move like you have with your last coach, better to go with the devil you know.
Yeah. It's actually the in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Yeah, he was 8-6 in the playoffs out. So Yeah. There you go. A good one.
Gregor, in the modern Oilers making the playoffs era, 5 years in a row since the decade of darkness, right? Well, I wonder what their game one record is.
Well, I can tell you.
I know you can. That's why I asked you on the air.
It's 0-7.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, the Oilers haven't won game one of a playoff series since 2017.
Oh, no.
That was in Anaheim. But keep in mind that in that time, they're 1-8 in the McDavid Draisaitl era in game one. But in the 8 they've lost, they're 4-4 in the series. So they've come back to win the series 4 times, which isn't bad when you look at the odds of what your chances are. Teams who win game one of a series, I think they have a 65% chance of winning. So against the Oilers, they only had a 50%. Right? So it's not awful, but yes, it is not a trend. They haven't won a home game of game one since 1991.
No.
So, but hey, that could change tonight. And you could go. You could see something that many fans haven't witnessed since the second round in the 1991 NHL playoffs. A victory on home ice in game one of a series. 833-401-1440 if you want to make a bid. Our tickets are at $650. Great seats. Tonight for the play. We had regular season tickets go for more than this. Somebody's got a steal of a deal right now. 833-401-1440. We'll come back. We'll get your winner in Here Comes the Sun and 5 questions and more on the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
I take possession of my commercial space in
folks. Welcome back. It's game day on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. As always, presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website. And for the playoffs, a little special gift for you. Use the promo code Gregor50. You'll get a free $50 wager at PlayAlberta.ca. Now, you have to make a $5 deposit, but $5 for 50. It's a pretty good deal. So there you go. Only through the playoffs, though. Gregor50 at PlayAlberta.ca. And it's time now, as we have our qualifier today for Here Comes the Sun, brought to you by Action Electrical. And the winner is going to take home a $15,000 solar system that includes a site assessment, structural engineer, permitting costs, the supply and installation of a solar system on your own home. Now, you do have to be a homeowner, or you can gift it to a homeowner. And they need to reside within a 50-kilometer radius of Edmonton. Okay, so there you go. Our qualifier today is congratulations. It's Will. Will, how you doing?
Yeah, fantastic.
Awesome, Will. So you would be gifting this, I understand.
I would. My dad actually had a stroke, and my brother kind of looked after him, and with some expenses coming up, I think it would go a long way to helping him out. So much appreciated.
Oh, awesome. Well, you're in the draw, and hey, sorry to hear about your dad. I hope he's doing well, and good on your brother for stepping up and helping him. So stay on the line, and Connor will get all your information, and you'll be in the draw. You got one more step. Cons will send it to you about the email, but that's very simple. So there you go. Congratulations, Will, and you are in to Here Comes the Sun, courtesy of Action Electrical. There you go. All right. So phone's a little dicey there. Might be wheeling around town. I'm not sure, but so there you go. So Will is in. We'll do a different qualifier every day this week, and we only have, if my math is correct, 14 qualifiers left, and then somebody's going to win that awesome prize, courtesy of Action Electrical. Let's get to 5 questions now, brought to you by The Brick and thebrick.com, where right now is the big brand event sale that is going on till the end of the month, where you can get 20% off dining room and bedroom furniture. So that's 25% off home entertainment furniture, fireplaces, and more at The Brick and thebrick.com.
It's time for 5 questions on the Jason Gregor Show.
All right, guys. Question number 1. One of my favorite things about the NHL playoffs, obviously the intensity, but just being around the city, the car flakes, the jerseys, everywhere that comes with it. What is your favorite part about the NHL playoffs?
Well, my favorite part, Connor, is when the Oilers are in them, because I remember the decade of darkness like it was yesterday, and it was way worse at this time of year, watching everybody else getting to have fun, and we were calculating who's going to play in the World Championships and what are the draft lotto odds. No, this is much better when we're in the playoffs.
Well, obviously, like having hosted a show for a decade when they weren't in the postseason, it's never great. But to me, the best part of the playoffs is just the heightened emotion and how much more intense the game is. Like in the regular season, sometimes, you know what, if you PVR a game, you might fast forward to certain parts here or there. Like playoff games, like I don't want to miss a shift, because even that Florida-Tampa game that was kind of a snooze fest, it's still like it's close. So you're all right, but man, you get into a game like Colorado and Winnipeg, and just the speed of the game intensifies, and that's what I like. Like how fast the players are gets put on display more.
Question number 2, just speaking of those playoffs, and of course, Wanye, the Oilers are in them this year. So looking back with the Oilers playoff history, there's some great times. What would be your favorite memory?
I would have to be, for me, Game 6 of the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2006. I was fortunate enough to be in the arena. That was the greatest day of my life. That includes the day Wanye Jr. was born. I'm sorry, son, but that was Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals. One day you'll understand. I remember seeing Prime Minister Stephen Harper on the camera and everyone chanting, "We want the cup," including the Prime Minister. And I was like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened in the history of ever. And I refuse to remember the next game.
I probably got to go back to 1987 because as a kid, Glenn Anderson was my favorite player. And Glenn Anderson scored a lot of big goals, but in Game 7, when Anderson came across the blue line, slap shot, scored, and it was wasn't the game-winning goal. It was just the insurance goal to put it away. That was the series where the Oilers were up 3-1 against Philly, and then Philly won Game 5. They won Game 6. I was a young teenager. I don't even know how old I was at that time, but I do remember the Glenn Anderson goal rather vividly.
Question number 3 for you guys today. How much of a concern do you think Evander Kane's sports hernia is for him going forward? And were you surprised to hear about it at this time?
Well, it should be called an athletic pubalgia is the proper term, because it's not a hernia, according to Grant Fedor. The proper term is athletic pubalgia or pubalgia, whatever it is. So I'm not sure that one's going to roll off the tongue as easy as a sports hernia, but hey, we'll try to be accurate here. There's a few things at play here. I really question the timing of why he would say it when no one really asked him. He put it out there. It's before the playoffs, and hey, it's an injury that's not one you can really target per se, unless you're going to go out and spear the guy, right? So it's a little different. All it did was create unnecessary conversation. People are freaking out. Oh, I should have been on LTR. That he missed 2 of the first 79 games of the regular season. And one of them, when his coach said it was a maintenance day in Ottawa, and that's why I didn't play. What does Kane say when he comes back? No, I was fine. I was healthy scratched. So on March 26th, you're telling us you were healthy scratched, and now you're telling us you've been dealing with it all year long. Well, okay, I don't discount that he's dealing with it, but obviously it can't be that serious because he's only missed 2 games. So what the hell's the purpose of doing it? Other than, because unfortunately for him, he's a tad of a me guy. And I think that illustrates, like, what's your goal? What's your motivation? What's the benefit of saying it at that point? Other than, well, geez, if I don't play well, it's because I'm dealing with this. That's the only thing I can think of. So I don't think it was the best thing. I don't think ultimately it's going to matter that much because the Oilers need him. Kane can be a really good player. I've outlined it. There's only 5 guys in the NHL over the last 8 seasons who are top 40 in goals and top 40 in hits. Kane's one of them. Alex Ovechkin, Chris Kreider, Jamie Benn, Anders Lee, right? Like, he's a very unique player, right? And he's tough. He'll fight. He's tough. Right? He's got a lot of good attributes, but just sometimes he can't get out of his own way. So I wouldn't be that concerned about it because if he's had it all year long and he's only missed, like, he had a week, that's the longest he's been out. So he probably should be rested. He only missed 2 of the first 79 games.
I think it goes to show you when a guy goes through a long goalless stretch and people are quick to jump on him and say he's gone stone cold or something. How oftentimes in the NHL they're dealing with a lingering injury. These guys just don't go stone cold for no reason. So, I mean, the timing of an announcement is one thing, but just having struggled through that this season, he still was quite productive.
But it was interesting because does it impact your game? He goes, well, it's not my shoulder. I can be physical. Okay, so it's not your hands. You can shoot. Right? Like, I don't know. There's some contradictory stuff there. You can't tell us a month ago you were a healthy scratch and then now say you were dealing with the injury the entire time. Well, which one is it?
Question number 4 for you guys. Of the teams right now in the Stanley Cup playoffs that are down 1-0, which do you think is most likely to come back and win the series?
Ooh, good question. I have 2, but I'll only pick one. Well, I don't want them to come back because I didn't pick them to win, but I'll say Tampa Bay.
I'd say the Islanders can come back and beat Carolina, but that's just me.
Something.
The Islanders.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I like them with Patrick Waugh. I think, I don't know. I have a feeling that that's a team that can go deep for some strange reason. You never know with the Islanders.
Well, they did outplay them actually in that game quite a bit, but like Colorado was the other team I was thinking. Like they really dominated, but I don't know if you're going to score 6 on Hellebuck very often anymore.
I'm also cheering for Carolina to always lose because I was lying earlier and I do know how Game 7 went in 06. And so I always want their opponents to come back and beat them.
Final question today. Maybe this won't be as applicable to you, Gregor, as you'll be at the game. But if you were watching maybe Game 3, you're sitting down and watch it, what is the best game day food and drink combination?
Good question. Well, right now I'm really into to gin, so I would have a Hendrick's with half tonic, half soda. Quite like that. And I would mix it in with some nachos with lots of cheese, chicken, and a good side of guac.
I would order what they call the Wanye combo at the Pint, Connor, and that is a 1 liter jug of mayonnaise and a 1 liter jug of Jack Daniels. And you take a scoop, and you take a sip. You take a scoop.
You're not serious.
The Wanye combo. It's delicious.
You're not. There's no chance.
Low impact packaging.
There's no chance have you actually done this?
A liter of mayonnaise and a liter of Jack Daniels. You think that's an actual combo?
But have you actually even done one of each?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, I just want to double check. Because I've seen people like eat mayonnaise just straight.
Did you see the guy at the football game, the college game, and he was just shoveling it?
Oh. I don't mind mayo, but I just like a teaspoon of like a tablespoon of it. No thanks. Cons, what about you?
Oh, for me personally, really into Mountain Dew Code Red right now. I know there's a few places in town that stock it, so might go for one of those. And then I don't know.
I love that
Maybe
you
a
still
pizza.
drink pop.
Oh, I
don't know why. Like I just think at a certain age, like you kind of graduate from pop, but maybe I'm wrong.
To gin?
Yeah, that's right. I'm not chugging it. Gin's healthier than pop, I'll tell you that.
I fully agree with you. Where do you get this, Connor? The Past?
Well, a good spot called the Dollar Store has the, for a lot cheaper than those bigger stores.
Interesting.
So yeah, you go grab a, $1.25 Code Red, gives you the caffeine you need to stay awake, and I'll probably pair it with pizza and wings, or oodle noodle.
Ooh,
pizza and wings is good.
Does any alcohol ever find its way into a Baja Blast or whatever
You
said?
could. Oh well, Baja Blast. That's a whole other
Code
animal.
Red though.
Code Red. I haven't, but I bet like a vodka would go smooth with it.
Well, it's like a vodka Red Bull. You could probably just have a vodka Code Red.
Oh.
Code Red. Code Red. Right? I'm sure you could do it. Somebody out there, I guarantee, who's done it.
Oh, guaranteed.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Like vodka, you can almost mix with anything if you really wanted to. Like vodka orange juice, vodka water,
vodka mayo.
Yeah, like vodka milk, probably not. That's the one. Maybe that would be a tough one. Tough one.
Yeah, vodka, probably any soda pop. I think you could make it work.
Yeah, vodka Coke. Right.
Code Red.
Mm-hmm.
Orange pop.
Vodka orange. Ooh, yeah, that'd probably be good.
Grape soda.
Isn't red dye like the worst colored dye?
Red. They've looked it up. Yeah, like red lemon. It's lots of kids. You should eliminate it from your kids' diet.
And
like, there's lots of studies on it. Is like the worst one.
Young Connor over here is just drinking it freely.
Well, it all depends which one, right? There's the certain specific one, but yeah, Collins, you might want to check it out.
Code Red's going to be you flying in the Air One.
No, once you try to have those little cons, that's when you got to wean yourself off of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to create the illusion that I drink it every day or anything, but I've had one in the last month.
You're drinking one right now. I'm just kidding. The fact you looked around.
I saw Declan look, and I was just going to show you that I have a coffee that is a good distance away from the board. You can't even see it on camera. There was an incident.
Was there a spill?
Yeah. You're not allowed about it.
Did Dad see? Oh no!
No, it wasn't Connor.
It wasn't me.
Connor wouldn't do it.
I know the rules.
Connor's the elder kid, right?
Yeah.
It's usually the middle or the youngest child that's screwing up.
No drinks by the board.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, rookie mistake. So let's see what the punishment is on that. When we come back, Mark Spector, we got Kevin Woodley. We're going to break down the goal. If the orders, because you heard earlier that last year, Korpisalo, if you go back and look at the tapes, the orders had a clear scouting report on Korpisalo. Shoot high, shoot high, shoot high. And it worked. What's the scouting report for Cam Talbot? It's coming up with Kevin Woodley after Mark Spector and a Sports 1440 update brought to you by Booster Juice. Try the Strawberry Serenity Teaser, a perfect blend of strawberries and green tea that is sure to put some extra spring in your step. Only at Booster Juice. Get the booster ball too, man. Oh, those are great.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
Game day, game one of the Oilers-Kings goes tonight down at Rogers Place. Puck drop 8:20. Oilers and the Kings, pregame coverage. Keep it locked on Oilers Nation YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter stream with pregame and with Aaron Bordato. just about to get going in Boston as the Bruins look to take a 2-0 series lead over the Maple Leafs. Later tonight, the Islanders and Carolina looking to even up that series at a game apiece. And it's game one, Stars, Golden Knights. Vegas will have their captain Mark Stone in the lineup. Puck drop just after 7:30. Off the ice, a familiar face returning to Buffalo as they have hired Lindy Ruff as their next head coach. He served as head coach from 97 to 2013. He had 8 playoff appearances in that time, including a trip to the Stanley Cup final in 1999. He spent the last 4 seasons in Jersey before being fired in March. In the association, the playoffs roll on. The Cavaliers looking to take a 2-0 series lead over the Magic at 5:05. At 5:30, you got the Knicks and Sixers. NY leads that series 1-0, and the Lakers will look to get back in their series with the Nuggets just after 8 o'clock, currently down 1-0. Major League Baseball, the Blue Jays in action tonight, taking on the Kansas City Royals. First pitch set for 5:40. 2 games underway. Phillies lead the Reds 1-0. Pirates on top of the Brewers 1-0, and the Rays trail the Tigers 1-0. Later tonight, Braves hosting the Marlins, White Sox in Minnesota. Cards take on the Diamondbacks, the Padres in Colorado. Angels hosting the Orioles, and the Mets take on the San Francisco Giants earlier today. Athletics like the Yankees 2-0. And the Denver Broncos have acquired the former number 2 overall pick in the draft, quarterback Zach Wilson from the New York Jets. The Broncos are expected to trade a 6th-round pick in 2024 to New York for the quarterback and a 7th-round selection. Coming up in hour 4 of the Jason Gregor Show, we will be joined by Mark Spector of Rogers Sportsnet and Kevin Woodley of In Goal Magazine. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440.
5:06 game day. It's playoff first edition. Game 1, Oilers and the Los Angeles Kings. Jason Gregor, Wanye Gretz, Connor Halley with you as you make your way home. Big plans. Puck drop around 8:15-ish, maybe 8:20. Oilers and the Kings. But don't worry. Maybe you get home. You've got lots of options if you want to watch the early games, as Toronto and Boston are set to go here in about 10 minutes' time. Then you have the Islanders in Carolina, Vegas and Dallas. Stone is in for them. Pietrangelo also back in, although he's only missed the last few games. Boston is going with the goalie rotation tonight. Linus Ullmark is in after Jeremy Swayman won game 1. Meanwhile, the Oilers and the Kings, we've discussed their lineup lots. We'll get to it a little bit later on with the lineup report later on in the program. It's a Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website. And if you do gamble, please use your GameSense. Go to gamesense.ab.ca to learn more as we get to the Spec Report, brought to you by GS Construction. And man, it is getting busy in the construction world right now, and they're looking for great people in all sorts of different job opportunities. Go to Indeed.com and look up GS Construction. Mark Spector from Rogers Sportsnet joins us, and Spec, it's the Oilers and the Kings. Third time is a charm, I guess, for the Kings. That's what they're hoping. The Oilers hoping to beat LA 3 consecutive years in the playoffs for the second time in franchise history. They beat them in 90, 91, and 92. They also beat the Jets 3 times in a row in 83 to 85. And then everybody knows they lost 4 in a row to Dallas after beating them the first time. You do have 2 new coaches in this one. The Kings have another new goalie for the 3rd year. It's Quick, then it's Corpusalo. Now it's going to be Talbot to start. What do you make of this series? If the Kings are going to win, how do you see them pulling off what would be an upset win?
Well, if the Kings are going to win, Jay, they're going to win close games because the way they play, they got to score early so they can stay in their defensive posture that they like. They're that team that when they get a lead on you, they're really hard to come back against. So scoring first is important for Edmonton. It's imperative for LA to get early goals and stay in this thing early. If they fall behind like by 2, now instead of Edmonton playing into their hands, they're playing into Edmonton's hands. Now they got to open it up, and now the Oilers can be the team getting the puck in the neutral zone, doing the transition and all that stuff. So the template for a Kings win is a smoking hot Cam Talbot. We've seen him. He can be good. Hasn't been good enough for long stretches this year, but he can be good. A smoking hot Cam Talbot, and score early and stay in that posture that they like. That's the way they win.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult. I don't know, the Oilers this year, to me, they just, and it's probably because they're 5-on-5 playing. I've harped on it for years, but they're just so much better defensively 5-on-5. If they lose this series, Spec, I'll view it as a massive disappointment for this organization and group. They should beat the LA Kings. I think they're a better team top to bottom.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. This is a point in their maturation where they've, this type of team, they know how to beat the system. They beat it twice. It's largely the same guys. When we've asked people in LA the question, how is LA better this year? The answer we're getting is, well, we've just played a couple of playoff series. Our guys are more mature and more experienced. Well, guess what? The Oilers have played even more playoff series, so they've got even more maturity and more experience. So that doesn't wash for me. Every time the Kings got 1 series in the last 2 years, Edmonton got 2 or 3. So, I ask you, are the Kings goaltending any better than it was the last 2 years? No, it's not any better, right? Do they have more healthy players? Okay, Arvidsson's in this year. He was only in one of the years before, but no, I don't see the Oilers are expected to win this series. I expected to win this series. If they're going anywhere near a Stanley Cup, pal, they better win this series because it's a first round series against a team you beat twice. There's no excuse to lose it. If you lose it, all bets are off around here.
How do you think the Oilers should shake off their Game 1 blues, Spec, that they've had since the decade of darkness concluded?
I don't know. It's because they've probably lost a different way each time. I think I'd say this, you guys. You know, we just talked about how is a team better each year. We've seen the Oilers get more mature in the playoffs. We've seen them fix, a better defensive game in 5-on-5 this year. Jay, you talk about. I think the next step is to show up for a playoff series and not be affected by all the emotions around it. I always feel like in game one, they get caught up. They get caught up. I think it's time for this team to stop getting caught up. It's time to go. Sometimes you roll your best game out and you lose. It could happen tonight. But I don't think that we should see the first periods that we've seen in the past. I think it's time for this team to be mature and bring their game when the puck drops, not when the second period starts.
Mark Spector joins us on Sports 1440, Oilers Nation, YouTube, and Facebook. And Spec, what do we've only seen it for a short time, but Adam Henrique with McDavid and Hyman. What do you make of Henrique on that line?
I don't mind it. He's smart, for one. You got to be smart to play with McDavid, to play with Crosby, to play with Gretzky. So he's smart. He's not overly quick, but that's okay. He's quick enough. He can handle pucks. He can both finish. He's an equal opportunity. Is he a pass first guy, Jay? I guess he is, but he could finish too. I think you have to be both playing with McDavid, considering that Hyman's your finisher. This guy better be able to pass the puck, and he can. So I don't mind him as a left winger here. I think I like the fact that it opens up Nugent Hopkins to play with Draisaitl because they're pretty good together. So I think it's kind of funny. You landed Henrique, and we all thought he was a third-line center, and now he's a first-line left winger. So funny how that worked out, isn't it?
Yeah, like I think they added him really because, they said they liked his versatility. And really, I think it's his cerebralness as a player. Every time you talk to him, like he really, he had a really good answer about playing with McDavid and just, obviously his speed, he goes, hey, you can't keep up to him in that sense, right? But he's the transporter, so you don't worry about it. But it's about, you have to keep up with him and how he thinks the game. If you want to have success with him, you have to be able to think the game like he does. And sometimes he goes, he's 2 steps ahead. So anticipation is key. The other thing that Henrique does, I think, better than Nugent Hopkins, Spec, is he plays around the net more. And McDavid's taught, like Patrick Maroon was great because he was around the net. Zach Casson, around the net, for a stretch. Obviously, Zach Hyman. And I think Henrique is he's not as good as Hyman around the net, but he's around the net more than Nugent Hopkins is. And I think that's why we might see a few more goals from him.
Okay, I'm with you on all of that. I think, again, it's an example of a smart player. He knows what to do and when to do it, and he can figure it out at game speed. So, I just know this, man, and it goes back to guys who played with Crosby. I've talked to them, I've written about them, I've interviewed different guys that worked in that spot and guys that didn't. You got to be smart. You can have all the stuff. If you don't have the main tool between your ears, you're not going to do well playing with the great players. And it goes with McDavid all day long.
What'd you make of the whole, Kane situation here? That bringing up his injury, which I don't recall, especially when it came a month after his coach seemed to try to want to cover for him and say, hey, it was a maintenance day. And he goes, no, I was healthy. So it was a healthy scratch day. So it's, I don't know, kind of conflicting from what he said to us a month ago.
Yeah. As has been the case all of Kane's career, too much drama, boys. Too much drama around Evander Kane. Useless drama. I'll do what every other player on every other team does. Yeah, maintenance day. I'm going to try hard tomorrow. I've been dinged up a little bit, but I'm going to be fine. I'm going to give you all I got. We'll draw our conclusions whether you're healthy or not. This is needless drama that you don't need starting playoffs, that you don't want in your dressing room. I think that, the guys we talk about Evander Kane running his course. He doesn't run his course as a player. He runs his course as a bringer of drama. And sometimes it's come from sources he can't control, like sometimes his ex-wife on social media. I don't blame him for that. That's not his fault. I blame him for this stuff. It is his fault. Shut up and play hockey, and don't bring drama to a team that doesn't need it starting out their playoff run.
Mark Spector joins us on Sports 1440. Spec, you know what? The Oilers, of course, will be the final series to get going. We've had 6 games. Home teams won them all. Some really interesting series, very different from Florida and Tampa. A little bit of a slow moving series to Colorado and Winnipeg that was just, pedal to the metal nonstop in that series. Like, I wonder if you're Colorado, you score 6 on Hellebuck, which is hard to do, but you still lose. Like, that's got to be somewhat of a gut punch, I would think. Or maybe I'm sure they look at it like, hey, guys, we scored 6 goals on Hellebuck. If we just tighten things up here, we'll be fine.
I don't know. They have to. I mean, it starts with tightening up. Excuse me. Colorado was a train wreck in their own zone last night. Georgiev wasn't any good, but 7 goals, 5 of them get scored on any goalie. Like, they were terrible in their own zone. You can't play that way in the playoffs. You can't. We watched the Oilers lose 9-6 in Calgary to open that series last year, and we're not talking about you give up 9. Who cares how many you got, right? You give up 7. Who cares how many you scored? Like, Colorado knows better than to play that way. And if they can't play better defensively, they're going nowhere. I guess you should say the same for Winnipeg. Winnipeg gets lucky because they gave up 6 and 1. So, that's just not playoff hockey they're playing there, man. It can't last that way, can it?
No, because it wasn't just the goals they gave up; it's the amount of chances they gave up, right? For Winnipeg, Colorado, though, you know what? They didn't give up a lot of shots back, but they gave up a lot of chances, and that's kind of been their problem a lot of the time this year. So I'm curious to see how that recovers. What do you make of Vegas going into Dallas? They got all their guys, except William Carey, he's not playing, but so Stone is back. Is it going to matter that much? Do you think they can flip the switch in Vegas?
Well, one of the things I learned today, a guy at my place at sportsnet.ca wrote a piece and added up their 20-man roster. They're $775,000 over the cap. So that's basically one entry-level player over the cap. So all the crying and moaning about cap evasion and all those things, I mean, big deal. The other side of it is, no, I don't think they can handle Dallas. I don't think Mark Stone can just continue at his age to give you the game he gave you. I mean, he was great last spring. If he does it again, call me wrong. But boy, oh boy, for him to do it 2 years in a row would surprise the heck out of me. They don't have a goalie that stopped pucks consistently for about a month. That's got to be a problem. And, they're looking as a team. They're not just flicking one switch, Jay. They got about 6 switches to flip here. If they can do it, call me wrong, and I'll eat it. I'll eat my words. But I'll tell you what, I don't see Dallas losing to that team in the first round. Do you?
No, I picked Dallas in 5, actually. I think Dallas is just a really good, deep team overall. And, hey, and I did a lot of number crunching. Like, this whole flip a switch thing, it doesn't really happen. Teams that – have been struggling, the one number, there's a few numbers if you go out historically, like goals against, and nobody's ever won with the goals against above 3, right? Okay. In this era, and theirs was like 323. And there's actually increased down the stretch. It didn't decrease.
Yeah, right.
And so they haven't shown signs of, we're coming together. Maybe we lost some offense in Stone, but our defense is good, and that hasn't been there. So, hey, and they're going up against a team that can really score. So that's, I think this should be, if Dallas doesn't win this series, man, I would say that's as massive of a disappointment as the Oilers losing to LA.
Yeah, for sure. Dallas is, they've been running at that President's Trophy they ended up winning the West, right? So, you're not having a better regular season than they had barely. And it's a first round series against a second wild card. I don't care if they won a cup. I don't care who plays for them. I don't care what they are. They're a second wild card, and they basically snuck in the playoffs in the last week. Dallas shouldn't lose to that team, no matter what the crest on their jersey says.
Spec, we'll see you at the rink. Have a good one.
Oh, looking forward to it, Jay. Let's go, baby. Can't wait.
I love the playoffs, man. It is awesome. That's the Spec Report brought to you by GS Construction. We'll come back. Kevin Woodley. We're going to get the breakdown. We knew how the Oilers wanted to attack Korpisalo last year, and it worked. Lots of high shots. How are they going to attack Talbot? Then conversely, what do you think LA is going to attack on Skinner? We know from Kevin there's the one area off the rush. They want to go off the rush. But if you limit them, how else can you do it? We'll find out next. We'll get the in-depth goalie scouting report with Kevin Woodley on the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
When you think
Hey, it's playoff game day. Oilers, Kings. Excitement, nervousness, whatever you have, it's likely building. It's a puck drop, just under 3 hours. Still got lots of time. Get to the game, relax, enjoy it. Jason Gregor, Wanye Gretz, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440 as we go in the room, brought to you by Next Gen Transportation. Heavy haul transport provider, 100% locally owned and operated, and a huge supporter of numerous youth sports teams in the city. It's nextgentransportation.com. As we welcome in, as we do every Monday from In Goal Magazine and NHL.com, Kevin Woodley joins us to break down goaltending. And Kevin, it's always good to have you on because you can really kind of focus in on teams. And we'll start, I guess. I know last year the scouting report, and you had talked about it before the series. The Oilers, they wanted to go high on Korpisalo, and they did, and they had a lot of success. So if you're the Edmonton Oilers and you're approaching Cam Talbot tonight, what do you think they're looking at in ways, like what's the areas they're going to try to exploit on Talbot?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with Jason. Like, I think they know him really well, right? So there's probably going to be a lot more than I can give you. Like the level of detail that they'll get into, that goalie coach Dustin Schwartz will get into, will be far beyond what I can do, in part because the nature of having to cover the Canucks and the Predators means I haven't done the work. And so just to give you a taste of what that work typically is, it is basically watching every single goal as a starting point that goalie has given up, charting and tracking where they go in, from what part of the ice, and then looking for patterns and habits that you can exploit. I'll give you one quick example. The Anaheim series a couple of years ago when John Gibson was in net. If you remember the Oilers scoring a couple of goals or scoring one directly and creating one off a scramble directly late in the game off bank shots from below the goal line as the goalie got caught with his skate outside the post. That is a very specific tendency that I guarantee Dustin Schwartz pointed out that they took advantage of at key points in the game. And I know for a fact the Ducks had to sort of alter how Gibson was handling those moments to avoid giving up more of those. So that's the type of finite detail. The simple stuff in terms of where to shoot on a guy, listen, like if you can pick the top corners of the net in prime scoring locations, that's where you're going to have your most success. And in Talbot's case, 31 over the glove this season, 24 over the blocker. I think for a lot of these guys, it comes down to high or low, like high blocker or low blocker. And that's where we want to get into save percentages, right? Like, so for Talbot, a lot of goalies will hold their glove up high. Like that's a new trend around the league. And as soon as you see that as a shooter, you start to shoot low glove. Talbot's got a little more balance. He's got good numbers, low glove, but high glove, they drop. Blocker, same thing. We're seeing this in the series in Vancouver with Saros. Talbot, exact same thing. Don't go low blocker over the pad. I mean, unless you can really hit that spot, it's always been a good spot. But in good looks, it might be just as good to shoot just off his hip because that 7-hole underneath the arm, his save percentage is actually .762 this year. So we saw that in the game here in Vancouver the other night. The one that Lindholm scored on UC Saros, a lot of people will be like, oh, it's just a bad goal and it's a fluke. Well, probably not a fluke when I look up his stats, and his save percentage in that spot is .665, and he's given up what I see as a league high 11 goals under the arm heading into that game. To me, and they went after it later in the game too. To me, that's a scouting report and a team paying attention to it.
Okay, so a lot of people said it's a bad goal and it doesn't look good, but that's an area that Saros had struggled in, and you know what? That's good scouting, right? Like you tell your guys where to shoot. So let's reverse it then. For the Oilers and Skinner, I know you've talked about off the rush. That's the one area where, he's been susceptible, but is there a specific low glove, high glove, low blocker, high blocker on between the arm spot on Skinner?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to have to pull that up as we talk. I will say that, one of the things to look at when I looked at the numbers for, just to stick with Talbot for a second, one of the areas where he's underwater a little bit, and this might apply maybe not to the same degree, but a little bit to Stuart Skinner, is on rebounds, Jason. He's almost a full 4 goals below expected on the season on rebounds, 17 rebound goals against. And I think one of the things that you have to be cognizant when you're trying to get to those, and Skinner's rebound numbers aren't actually terrible. They're slightly above expected. but just slightly. But one of the things you have to be cognizant of both guys, if you're an attacking team in today's day and age, is that rebounds aren't all created the same based on the equipment they wear. Cam Talbot wears equipment designed specifically, both the blocker and the pads, to create faster, more active rebounds. The actual skin of the material on Talbot's pad is called Core-Tech, and COR for all golfers, COR being the core, and Core-Tech is coefficient of restitution. So they actually borrowed a golf phrase Bauer did when they developed this pad, because it is specifically designed to shoot rebounds as far away. So if you're standing at the top of the crease trying to bang one home and somebody slams it off the pads with their initial shot, you have less time to react to it. It's more likely to pop past you. You need to sort of stay a little further out as much as you're trying to create traffic off the rush, active rebounds off the pads. If you're too close to the net, you might not have a chance to react to it. The idea is that it gives goaltenders more time to recover the further away it is to their next position. But as teams start to look for that, you sit further back, that rebound will come out hot to you and you can get it back towards the net before they can recover. So that's something definitely to keep in mind with both goalies, because Skinner wears not the same brand, but he's the only one in the NHL wearing a specific model of CCM designed to create the same thing, very active rebounds.
Okay. Kevin Woodley joins. That's great to know. That's why I have you on, Woodley. It's fantastic. So a guy like Zach Hyman then suggesting that now when we say higher, instead of you're talking like a difference of maybe 6 to 8 inches, correct?
No, these are sizzlers, man. When they first discovered this technology, when they first sort of came up with this, they were actually trying to create a pad that deadened rebounds, kept them in front of you, and they just couldn't do it. And so they sort of had this guinea pig test pad. It was actually like a project car type thing for the Bauer department. Like, hey, what can you guys do with new technology? Just go outside the box. And Henrik Lundqvist tested it. And Lundqvist was the one that was like, no, you're onto something here for the other reasons. And I remember the ad campaign that they ran at the time when Lundqvist debuted the pads, where he was taking shots from the point and without a lot of effort, putting the rebound into the goal at the far end of the ice. These things come off hot, 10, 15 feet instead of 5 or 6. Like it's a significant difference. That said, you don't change if you're Zach Hyman how you play the game, because the reality is not every shot's off the pads. A lot of them are going to be like off the shoulder or in that area, and a lot of them are rebounds. Tough for the goalie to control the initial save because of the traffic, because of the chaos that a guy like Zach Hyman creates. So you don't want to go too far away from it and your game. But I will say, especially like if you're looking for pass off pads on a 2-on-1 rush, so you can't say that defensemen do a great job of coming down the lane and you're not sort of looking to score with your initial shot and you're going pass off pads, that's where that second guy needs to make sure he isn't coming too hard or too close, or it'll hop right by him.
Kevin Woodley from InGoal Magazine, NHL.com joins us. So Kev, you were probably a little twitchy watching that game yesterday, as it's 7-6 and Hellebuck's giving up goals and Georgiev's giving up goals all over the place. Now, there were some quality chances created. It wasn't like there was great defense in front of them, but still, like if you're Colorado, you're like, man, we scored 6 goals on Hellebuck. Best goal in the league this year. This is pretty good, but we lost. So, like, what was there anything that you saw in how they were attacking either goalie that, they were trying to exploit it, or was it just a case of there were so many quality chances generated?
Yeah, no. So again, caveat here, Jason, and I apologize, but it's just the nature. I mean, I was at the rink at 9 a.m. for the Canucks' first home playoff game in 9 years and didn't get home till almost 1 a.m. last night. And the only part of that game I caught was sort of leading up to the Vancouver puck drop, and I didn't get all of it. But I did watch a lot of the highlights. I did look at the numbers on Clearsight Analytics this morning. 12 high danger chances for the Colorado Avalanche, 10 for the Winnipeg Jets. Almost all of the Jets scoring was actually on high danger chances on Georgiev. But, you can still stop those two, right? Like, so it's one of those tough ones where I'm like, man, like they weren't nearly good enough defensively. And I'm sure they'll tell you that. And that's the last thing you want to do for a goaltender who's clearly struggling coming into the playoffs. But you obviously need to save. And we talked about this last week, that matchup with Hellebuck as your Vezina winner for the year. And then at the other end, a goalie who, I thought maybe they should have found Annunen some more minutes down the stretch against tougher opponents, just in case this happened. I don't know where you go from here if you're Colorado. I mean, Annunen wasn't even on the bench because he was sick last night. They had their 5th stringer, Arvid Holm, in there. So I'm assuming go back to Georgiev. But I'd be honest, I felt like the last couple of weeks of the season, I would have been looking for opportunities to make sure I felt more comfortable and my plan B felt more comfortable if indeed I needed him. And kind of worst case scenario for Georgiev, for the Avs. I honestly, Jason, you got to be better defensively for sure. But like that combination right now, you're just to give up 10 high danger chances with a goalie who's struggling. I don't know which. I guess the one that's easiest to fix is start defending, and then hope that Georgiev can start to trust his game, because it's really hard to sort of find your confidence when you're out there playing shinny.
Yeah, oh, that's fair. Lastly, the Boston Bruins. They're going with the rotation, which makes sense to me. Like, that's what got you to the playoffs. Stick with it. And Swayman was very good in game one. Boom, Allmark goes tonight.
You are breaking this news to me, Jason. Again, I'm actually coming to you live from the media room where the coaches do their press conferences here at Rogers Arena. I just filed my last story of the day, and I'm finally going to go home. So I hadn't seen that news, but I love it. And that will be no secret to you, because for how many years have I talked about, you need to, a lot of teams end up playing two. If you use two in any type of rotation during the season, then expecting to ride one guy throughout the playoffs has never made sense to me. Hey, if you got a workhorse, great. Skinner is the guy, and he deserves to be the guy in Edmonton. He's been great all season, and I fully expect him to run with this. But if you're in a situation like Boston is, or Carolina, let's see what they do, because Freddie Anderson missed a lot of time. I don't know that he's at peak shape physically, that he could play every game for them in the playoffs. I think we could see this with more than one team. Why not? And I think the coaching's always been risk averse and afraid to make these changes. You saw how much Minnesota got hammered for starting Fleury in game two, even though it was the right decision last year, for a lot of different reasons I got into in the past. And so you don't want to be the coach that takes that risk. But I think Boston last year, the fact that they didn't go to the rotation, the fact that the first time Linus Ullmark started 6 in a row was in the playoffs, like that kind of is absurd. The fact it bit them gives us a chance to get to this season. And obviously I'm biased. I'm hoping for it to work, because I've been sort of cheerleading for this to happen for 5-6 years now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very true. Very true. Kev, quickly give me your thoughts on what you thought in Demko's first game. I thought, looked a little rusty, maybe excitable early on, but then really settled down in the second half.
That saved, only 5 high danger chances for Nashville, 4 for Vancouver. The difference, there's a couple differences. One, Vancouver converted on 2 of 4 their high danger, and obviously the low danger chance that Lindholm scores on Saros is the difference in the game. Couple of mid danger going on Demko. You're right. The one thing in the last couple of games of the season when he came back from injury that I didn't think he was fully dialed in on was his play behind screens, and he gets caught sliding the wrong way on a screen that may have deflected off somebody in the way, and it was hard to tell. But that's a little uncharacteristic on the first Nashville goal. Second one, I'd be honest, O'Reilly from the dot, a guy with that much skill and talent puts it in the exact right spot, and he just missed it. I think that's a hat tipper. That's one you tip your hat on. The save he made on Anthony Beauvillier 3 minutes into the game, and what that did for the crowd instead of what it could have done the other way if Nashville converts 3 minutes into the game, the fantastic right pad 2-on-1 save. As soon as he had any doubts about his physical health, we've talked about that last week, he is back 100% physically. But as soon as he made that save, it left no doubts with anyone else in the building. And maybe most importantly, not just on the Canucks bench, but maybe on the Nashville bench too, that this is the Vezina candidate Demko they're getting back right now. And as soon as he dials in the stuff behind traffic, you'll see there's potentially even another level. Best goalie in the NHL for the first 6 weeks of the season, coming up the preseason, and at least some signs early, you never know, but some signs early in his first 3 games back off injury that he might be able to reach that level again as these playoffs get underway.
Great stuff, Kev. Have yourself an awesome day. Enjoy the playoffs. We'll talk to you again.
Yeah, you too. To everyone in Edmonton, enjoy it. It's the best time of the year. Just happy to be back in it myself. I know it's old hat for you in Edmonton, but have fun. Enjoy it, guys.
There you go. That's Kevin Woodley from In Goal Magazine and NHL.com. Could we see a Canucks Oilers meeting in the second round? Oof, that would be spicy. Teams haven't met in forever. It was 86 the last time they met? No, not even 86. Jeez. Yeah, no, it was 86. They beat him in the first round. Edmonton spanked him, and then they lost to Calgary. Geez, that might be the last time they met in Vancouver. Going off the top of my head here. I think that is. Jeez. Kind of hard to have a rivalry with no playoffs. But the fans have done it. Oiler fans can't stand the Canuck fans. I kind of respect it. I think it's mutual too. So that's good. Take a quick break. We'll come back with Wanye's World, the lineup, and more on the Gregor Show presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
We finished
.547, Jason Gregor. Wanye Gretz, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440. Let's get to the lineup brought to you by good friends at Sherwood Power Sport and Marine, as they had their grand opening this past weekend, and whew, it was something, man. They had the pirate ship bouncy castle, the e-bikes giveaway, tons of giveaways, even had a live DJ can check them out now for all your power sports and marine needs at Sherwood Power Sports. So the Oilers lineup: Henrique is with McDavid and Hyman. Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, and Fogle are a trio. You will have Ryan McLeod with Dylan Holloway, Corey Perry. Sam Carrick's going to center Evander Kane on the left side and Matthias Janmark on the right. So Connor Brown out. Defense, looks like it's Ekholm Bouchard, Nurse, Ceci, Kulak, and Desharnais. Although Philip Broberg was recalled today, so spidey sense is tingling on that one. The AHL playoffs begin on Wednesday. Would you call Broberg up just to sit in the press box? So we'll see. That just came down here. So, I don't know. I just wonder what's up there. Stuart Skinner, of course, will start in goal for the Edmonton Oilers. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Kings are going to go. This is what they'll start with. They finished the regular season for a few games. They changed their lines. Kopitar is going to go with Kempe and Laferriere. You'll have Phil Deneau with Arvidsson and Trevor Moore. They're going to try to get them out against McDavid line as much as they can. Blake Lizotte with Trevor Lewis and Kevin Fiala. Pierre-Luc Dubois with Carl Grunstrom and Quentin Byfield. So Byfield goes down with Kopitar down with Dubois. We'll see how long that lasts. And then you got Anderson with Doughty, Gavrikov and Matt Roy, and then Englund and Spence. That third pair doesn't have a lot of experience. And I'll be very curious to see if Knobloch tries to get his top six out against them at certain times, especially on defensive zone starts. And that'd be a no-brainer if they could do it, depending on shifts and everything else. You know, Knobloch has said he doesn't like to disrupt his rhythm of his team too much. But if you can get an advantage like that, even if it's only for a few shifts a game, you're going to want to do it. And then, of course, Cam Talbot will be in goal for the Los Angeles Kings. We heard from Kevin Woodley. High glove, high blocker on Talbot. Those are the two areas. He's very good low glove, very good low blocker. He also, both Skinner and Talbot have the pads specifically to create active, faster rebounds, thus kicking them out farther. I know Wanye was very like, ooh, this is good stuff. And that's why we have Woodley on. He's very good. So that's what you can look at right there. I like it.
I thought that was a great bit by Woodley. Like, that's an interesting perspective to have, that they're developing goalie foam like that. Imagine how neurotic you would be to be an NHL goalie and know that, like, the book is out on all your shortcomings. The highest firepower players in the world are like, I know to shoot high blocker and glove on you.
Yeah. But the thing is, they know it, but it's very rare does a guy get a lot of time. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes players, like, they just put their head down and they, from all their practice, from a certain area, they're like, okay, I'm trying to hit a certain spot. Right now, obviously, Draisaitl can hit the sharp angle shot, and the best shooters, Matthews and those guys. But there's a lot of guys sometimes, like, you know what? They're just head down and they just like get it on that hard. I'm hoping to shoot it glove side, but sometimes it goes blocker side.
But imagine like other jobs had such good scouting reports. Like if you're an accountant and the other accounting firms in town are like, oh, Gregor the accountant, that guy's terrible at Excel. Give it to him in Excel and he'll never be able to make sense of it. Like it's got to really make you neurotic in the long run that everyone has a book on you as a goalie and they know exactly what your shortcomings are.
Yeah. So it's very interesting stuff. Big shout out to Andy and to Russell. We ended up with the second pair. And so Andy bought one, Russell bought one to help out Gregor's grads today. So thanks. Consu donated that second pair of tickets, by the way.
That came in from Conrad.
Not a boy, Conrad. Nice. That's awesome. So thanks very much for that. Going to help out almost 4 grads today. So that is excellent stuff. We'll go to the to Gregor's grads and go to the game tonight. Good times. Let's get to Wanye's World now, brought to you by Action Electrical. Your next chance to win the $15,000 Here Comes the Sun prize package, courtesy of Action, is up tomorrow, the 5 o'clock hour. So tune in. We're courtesy of Action Electrical. Somebody's going to win a $15,000 solar system for their home. Here's Wanye Gretz.
We were talking about Stanley Cup signs at headquarters the other day, Gregor, and I know you know this stat, but it's still worth discussing. Matthias Ekholm was born on May 24th, 1990. The Oilers won their 5th Stanley Cup in Boston, May 24th, 1990. Like, can you imagine if you were at the Boston game somehow and you watched Messier lift the cup and it's presented to him, and then they do a new presentation and they bring out a brand new Swedish baby with an enormous beard, and they say the Oilers won't even really be in a cup final situation or an expectation of winning a cup until this baby is 33 years old. Like, it's crazy to me that it's been that long since the Oilers won a division. that long since the Oilers won Stanley Cup that somebody born that age is now an Oiler himself.
Yeah. Well, you look at it. Well, and he's one of the older ones. So pretty much everybody on there'd only be Corey Perry and Derek Ryan, who I think are older than him.
Derek Ryan was in the league when the Oilers won the Cup, I believe. If you look it up, Gregor. He was in the league. He's in his fourth season. Good player then.
The low tide of the Oilers.
Yeah.
So, hey, boys, why would they break up Nuge, Hyman, and McDavid? Well, I think because McDavid and Hyman are kind of the drivers of that line. And, you know what? Henrique, they just felt like he adds a different element. And Nugent Hopkins really hasn't scored much 5-on-5 for quite a while here. Right? Like, does he have a 5-on-5 goal here in the last 2 months? I have to look it up. I don't think he does. Maybe one. So, you know what? And him and Draisaitl have a little bit of chemistry too. Now, it's been a while since they, you know what? But hey, if you strike lightning in a bottle once, maybe you can do it twice. It's obviously low. But, and I think also it's, Nugent Hopkins a little bit quicker than Henrique. But Henrique, I think, is just as smart. They're both cerebral players. But Henrique, I think, is a little bit better around. Well, not a little bit. It's proven better around the net as far as a finisher goes. So they have, Nugent Hopkins probably a better overall playmaker, I would think. So, we'll see how it goes. But his game is a little bit closer to the net. So, but I say this. It doesn't mean they're going to lock in and be together all the time. We could see Henrique and Nugent Hopkins change lines in the second period. The coach is not afraid to change lines. And his players, everyone I've talked to, they're like, I kind of like the fact that we got a lot of guys who can play in different places and no one really cares. Well, the majority of them don't care. Some care, you know who they are, but the majority of them don't care because they just want to win. And that's how it goes. So on behalf of Wanye Gretz, Connor Halley, enjoy the game, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Game 1. Playoffs tonight. You can get over to Orders Nation YouTube. They got all the pregame coverage coming up. And then tomorrow we'll recap game 1. Are the Oilers going to end the drought? They've lost 7 in a row. That's game 1 of a series. Can they end the drought? I think they do. See how it goes. Have yourselves a wonderful night. Let's get to the Con Man of Sports 1440 update brought to you by Alberta GMC dealers. Get up to $6,500 cash purchase credit on a 2024 Sierra 1500 Denali Ultimate right now at Truck Month. Learn more at gmcoffers.ca. Enjoy the playoffs. Good night.
Game 1 finally here. We're about 2.5 hours away from puck drop down at Rogers Place as the Oilers hosting the Los Angeles Kings. Puck drop 8:20. 2 games underway right now. Midway through the first, Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Islanders scoreless. Kings lead that series 1-0. And after 20 minutes, the Boston Bruins up on the Maple Leafs 2-1. They also lead that series 1-0. Later tonight, the Golden Knights taking on the Stars down in Dallas. Puck drop 7:30. Mark Stone, Vegas Golden Knights captain, will play for the club. Off the ice, the Buffalo Sabres have hired Lindy Ruff as their next head coach. He returns to Buffalo, where he served as the team's head coach from 1997 to 2013. Made 8 playoff appearances in that time, including a trip to the final in 1999. He spent the last 4 seasons with the Devils before being fired in March. In the association, 2 games are underway. The Cavaliers lead the Magic 46-31 in the second quarter. They led the series 1-0. You've also got the 76ers on top of the Knicks, 2013. Tyrese Maxey playing despite being a little under the weather. The Knicks lead that series 1-0. Later tonight, you'll have the Nuggets looking to take a 2-0 series lead over the Lakers. Tip-off at 8 o'clock. And in the majors, the Jays right now scoreless as they take on the Kansas City Royals. That's in the top of the second. Elsewhere, Twins lead the Red Sox 2-0. Marlins Braves scoreless. Tigers on top of the Rays 5-0. In the fifth, in the sixth, the Reds trail the Phillies 4-0. And the Brewers and Pirates tied at 1 apiece. Still to come tonight, Padres in Colorado. The Angels will host the Orioles. Mets taking on the Giants, and the Yankees earlier today falling to the Athletics 2-0. That'll do it for us here on the Jason Gregor Show. We've got Fox Sports Radio coming up at 9 o'clock, and then tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., Kevin Carius, Brandon Douglas, and guest host Grant Fear recapping the Oilers on the Kevin Carius Show. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440, a Stingray radio station broadcasting on Treaty 6 territory.
Download the free iHeartRadio app and listen to Seek,